Academy. Welcome to January 11th, 2021. We're here for Pipelines. It's good to see you. You caught me on the rare occasion where I'm wearing a nice little polo button up, just wanted to look a little bit fancy for you all, mostly because, I didn't have any clean t-shirts today. So, I had to get a little spiffy, really nice. But good to see everybody. Welcome back. I hope you had a great weekend, spent some time with your family, got to do some things that you wanted to do. And now we're back to the work week. But tonight we have finally made it to my favorite week of all the courses, of all the classes, is the Linux week. It's going to be exciting. So tonight's actually going to be pretty packed with information. There are a lot of slides tonight, but we're going to be doing stuff real time while we are looking at those slides. But tonight, this whole week is fully focused on Linux. In an 8-week course, we're allotting 8 whole weeks. I mean, an entire week to Linux itself. It's super, super important, really foundational in what we are going to do. This will be beneficial. I really should have emphasized to every other class, to both other classes, that that everyone should probably attend this week, to be honest, because it's pretty important for all the things that we're going to do. So we are going to start from the beginning. I think tonight we are covering what Linux is. I think we're going to go over the Linux file system. We'll learn some the CLI navigation commands. We'll learn how to deal with users and groups, all kinds of stuff like that tonight. And we'll get into some of the more advanced stuff. We'll get to as much as we can tonight, even if we hopefully, if we are moving through at a good pace. I'll just go until time runs out with kind of new things, because there's so much to learn here, and we can always fill in all the time next time. So it'll be pretty dope. What's up, Steven Glansberg? How are you doing? Sully, good to see you. What's up, VA? How are you doing? Hope everybody's doing good. Mysterio, welcome. Thank you. Looking slick. I appreciate it. Thank you. Just sometimes, you gotta look good, feel good, all stuff like that. What's up, Masakari? How are you doing? Bedrock Michael, always good to see you. What's up, Sice in the Mind? I love the name. Good to see you. What's up, Aban? Dorothy, good to see you. How you doing? I did get your message on LinkedIn. I will be responding to you for sure. I want to make sure that I saw it. I got the resume and everything. I took a look. So I have some questions, but for good stuff. I might have some, I definitely might have some leads for some things. So I'll definitely send you a message. What's up, Manuk? How are you doing? What's up, Ridvik? How are you doing? Lemon Sauce. Hello from Brazil. I appreciate it. Hello from Baltimore. Good to see you, Tarsus Dev. Who else we got on here? Nitro Sage. Good to see you all. Burning JC. Rockadoose. Welcome. Lee DevOps. Always good to see you. Aya. How you doing, brother? All right. So we're going to get right into it today, just because there is so much to learn here. The first 2 weeks are always pretty interesting, because there's a little bit of overlap in all the classes. We did do an intro to the Linux CLI for Decoded. Why? Because if you're going to code, you're going to have to learn how to just do some basic things like move around a little bit from the command line, make some files and folders and directories, so that you can and know how to run a couple commands so that you can actually run your code pretty easily. So we did do that. We will cover some of that same stuff. We'll breeze kind of through that, and we will get into all of the commands. So we'll be pretty hands-on tonight. So in the past, we spent the first day setting up a virtualized Linux environment. After some feedback and talking to some people about this, that's not what we're gonna do. That's why we went over some different ways to kind of get it set up with a Linux environment. Again, you do have that Linode code at the bottom if you want to hop in like that. I'm going to be running a virtualized environment just for today, and only because it's going to help me explain some concepts to you. So you're going to get to see what desktop Linux looks like. We will talk about virtualization and all the other stuff. But if you're on a Mac, you're fine. You don't have to do anything separate. If you have WSL2, you should be good to go. But yeah, we're going to be hands-on today, doing some stuff, getting the basics of Linux down. You're going to need this stuff. This stuff's pretty important and pretty useful. Things that you can put into place immediately. So let's go ahead and let's get started. Let me get you some slides, and actually let me get out of the Linux environment. It's virtualized, but we'll get back into it just so we can get into the slides over here. Actually, no, we're gonna do that, because if I don't do it this way, then I won't be able to get to my slides very easily. All right, so you can see today there are a ton of slides, but it's okay. they all have like one thing on them, and a lot of them are title slides. We're gonna run through it, and it's gonna be a good time. Run levels. We will talk about run levels for sure. That's a really good one. I'm pretty sure that's in tomorrow's, like, or on Wednesdays. Wednesdays is definitely a step up in difficulty. I mean, it's all just Linux commands, but the types of things that we're gonna be doing are a little more nuanced there. But yeah, ran through Try Hack Me's Linux Foundations course, and it was way too easy. The challenges section, I'll check that out. I mean, I want to check it out. I wonder what too easy for a Linux course is. I don't think Linux is. I think nowadays, because of the way the world is set up, we are in the pipelines course. We are learning about DevOps and SRE. We're learning about automation, stuff like that. And yes, you need to know some core Linux skills. I think Linux is always going to be foundational, but you also don't need to know quite as much Linux as people think you need to know to get around and to do some good things. So we'll see. We'll get through it. I definitely want to check it out to see how I would feel about it too. All right, so here is the agenda tonight. Linux plus distros. So we'll talk about what Linux is. We'll talk about Linux distributions, get you up to speed. We'll talk about virtualization. We will talk about file systems and interfaces and shells. We'll talk about file pathing and CLI navigation, and we'll go over some CLI concepts and talk about managing users and groups. So this is what we're going to try to squeeze in today. If we get through fast, we will move on to some more things like package installations and really understanding full scope of it, installing things from source, all that other stuff. We'll also be talking about in this week process management. How do you deal with and manage processes? We'll be talking about Linux permissions, a bunch of stuff. How do you get information about the computer, hard disk information, RAM, storage, RAM, CPU information, all the other stuff. You're going to learn how to do all that stuff. And why are we learning this stuff? The reason why we are learning this stuff is because what we looked at on the roadmap, roadmap.sh. This right here is this section. It's really going to be a little bit of two sections, but mostly this entire week. Oh no, not Launch Darkly. Oh, I can't get this this ad to go away. It's a large ad, but we are doing this whole section right here. You see with my mouse, this understanding different OS concepts. So you're going to learn about all this stuff, sockets, and we'll do some basic Linux networking. Maybe we might have to squeeze in something else tonight. I have it split up, but now that I'm thinking about the things that are coming in tomorrow, we may need to do some of the stuff. So we'll learn about virtualization tonight, file systems, just kind of basic server and system management. So learn about managing servers. It's really these two sections right here. That's why Linux is down here. But yeah, that's what we're going to be diving into this evening. What's up, Curry Fries? Good to see you. Kinky Hair Coder. All good. You're right on time. It'll be okay. What's up, BPez? Currently at work. Don't have access to the environment and will not accessation anything from here. Let's see. I don't know if there are any browser options here. Linux terminal online. Obviously, I've Googled this before. There's this one. I've never used any of these, so I'm, be careful. Try it online. Linux containers. I think someone told me about this one last time, so I think this might be a good one. BPez, but all good. All right, so let's get straight into it. Let's start working through as fast as we can because there's a lot of information here. I'm going to stop pretty often to let you ask questions because there's a lot of information. I'm going to get through it quick, show it to you, allow you to ask as many questions as you need to ask so that we can get through it. But I think tonight will be, I hope it'll be pretty simple. So what is Linux? And I don't know what happened to this. Let's go back to this. Let's fix it because I don't know why it got over there like that. There we go. That's really weird. All right, present it again. What is Linux? Well, Linux, or the GNU project. Again, we're not gonna dive into the intricacies of the namings and GNU and what that foundation is, all the other stuff. We want to know at a high level what it is because we more so want to learn how to manage it. But Linux is a free and open source operating system. Boss, you'll probably see this a lot. Free and open source simply means that the source code for this is available. It's open and available to you. So not only can you see the source code for the Linux kernel, but you can also contribute to it if you like. You can also take it and modify it however you want for your own use. So yeah, that's free and open source software. It's a big thing in the industry. Pay attention to it. It's really dope. Most of the things that we use here are free and open source. So that's what it is. It is a Unix-like operating system. Mac OS is also a Unix-like operating system due to some legal things. You've got to, you're supposed to refer to it as a Unix-like operating system. It is similar to Unix. Unix is built on a kernel. Linux it's similar to Unix. So if you learn Linux, you would feel kind of comfortable moving over to a Unix box like BSD or something like that, but it's not Unix. And that's what GNU or GNU, the GNU project, stands for. It stands for GNU's not Linux. It is a what is this called? The R word when my mind just blanked out, but it's okay. We'll come back to it. I'll remember what the word is, or one of you will tell me what the R. It's a recursive acronym. There we go. I don't know why I was struggling with that so bad. Thank you. Thank you, VA. Exactly. You got it the same time I was thinking it. So it's a recursive acronym. That's what it stands for, but don't worry about the GNU project. It's not Unix. It is Linux. It was created by a guy by the name of Linus Torvalds. Look him up. Wild boy. He's a smart dude, very interesting, very passionate guy. Surprisingly not all that great with computers, but like really good at programming. And he created this. He also was the creator of Git, the two probably most significant pieces of technology to the software industry. And it's really just a kernel. It's not quite an entire operating system as you would probably think it is, but not as we know, most of us know an operating system as. It's really just a kernel. And you might say, hey, what the heck is a kernel? Well, this is what a kernel is. It's the main component of a Linux operating system. It's also the main component of a Windows operating system as well, but I digress. But it's the main component of a Linux operating system. It's the core interface between the computer's hardware and its processes. So this is the engine that helps the software speak to the hardware, and the processes that are running speak to the hardware to gain access to the CPU, gain access to the RAM, gain access to the hard disk. The kernel is what's responsible for that communication. It communicates between the two, managing resources as efficiently as possible. And so this is the piece that is the main, that this is Linux. When people talk about free and open source Linux, they're talking about contributions and the code for the Linux kernel. All right. Curious about the surprisingly not good with computers like hardware. Burning JC, yeah, like he he runs surprisingly simple computers and stuff because he doesn't like he's not a consumer tech person. Like he doesn't have a lot of stuff. If you see his setup, you'll be like, wow, like he has like a old dad computer setup because he knows how to program really well. And yeah, obviously he knows a lot about computers themselves, but like he's not I don't know. He's not a consumer techie, I guess. It threw me off the first time I ever saw a video where he showed kind of his setup and stuff, and he kind of talked about it a little bit. Like that ain't me. Like all the monitors, and I expected him to have all this crazy stuff, top of the line stuff. Nah, man. He's like, give me this little basic computer, and I'll do what I need to do with it. But it's pretty interesting. But the kernel is called a kernel because like a seed inside a hard shell, it exists inside of the operating system, and it controls major functions of the hardware, whether a phone, laptop, server, or any other kind of computer. So one, Linux is literally everywhere. It's in a lot of your phones. If you have Android, it's in a lot of your phones, a lot of your devices. You're interacting with Linux literally every day, guaranteed. But it's this kernel. It's pretty dope, and the operating system it controls it. It's the engine, and everything gets built around it. I'm going to draw an image for you in a little bit for this as well to help you kind of understand a little bit. But you will hear people talk about the Linux kernel a lot, and just understand this is, for now, it's good enough to understand that this is the engine that runs it, that helps the software on the system and the processes on the system communicate with the hardware on the system. That's all you need to know about that right now. So take a quick break there, ask any questions you might have, because I know we went through that very, very quickly. You will not be a Linux expert at the end of this week, but you will know how to use Linux. You will be comfortable enough to hop in and start diving way deeper into Linux. So yeah. There's certain things that should be fundamentals. Like there's only one grep question, 0 odd questions. So one piping question. I think the piping one is a little bit weird. I think one grep is fine, especially if there's an introductory course. I don't think there should be any awk questions in an introductory course personally. What you religiously, yeah, I mean, you may never have to use awk ever. Like, it helps, it definitely helps, but you can get around it. I think grep is pretty important. Piping, I think, is very important, but everyone's idea of importance kind of depends on how they've dealt with Linux and what they've seen with Linux. Challenges part of the course, have to pay. I think for an intro course, I think that's fine, personally. Got his money in balance pretty much, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's funny dude. He's a very interesting guy. He also claimed he was going to stop working on the Linux kernel like 5 times, and then he didn't. So I don't know. He doesn't have the latest graphics cards. He doesn't have. I don't think he has any graphics cards from what I was seeing, which was interesting because he has a vendetta against Nvidia for good reason, for really good reasons. They do not play well with Linux at all. But yeah, pretty interesting. I think I was super surprised. I'll send some videos over about it. When you install Linux on a device, you install the kernel. So you install more than just the kernel. The kernel is the heart of it, but you install the kernel and you install a bunch of software over top of it so that you can use to work on the system and to do things on the system. So it's not just like Linux is the kernel, but the full operating system that you're installing has other pieces besides just the kernel. It does incorporate those packages and those softwares, those libraries and those binaries that help you actually do some cool stuff. Because by itself, the kernel is not all that great. It needs to be able to have something to do the communication with. Vanguard, no big deal. We are very early on. You install a distribution of the kernel plus user space tools. Yeah. And so it's really interesting also that you don't really install a distribution of the kernel. Like, the kernel is kind of how it is. I mean, yeah, I guess different distributions do make some modifications to it. But yeah, that's right. We're about to talk about distributions right now, so you'll have a little bit better understanding of this in a second. Basic understanding of standard error, standard out, standard in, yeah, are considered fundamentals. I think they are. Awk said, still trying to wrap my head around here. We will definitely do some what we do awk and said. I don't think we're going to do much awk and said. We'll definitely do some grep, but I can show you guys awk and said. They're helpful. They're very helpful, but I don't think necessarily you need to know anything about those right now. Awk is its own language. You can make entire projects around awk. That is 100% true. Status regex, freshen up on regex. Yeah, I wish we should take more time to do some regex stuff. I think, man, we could do a whole 2 or 3 classes on regex. Maybe we'll do a regex bootcamp, like a 1 week regex bootcamp where we just learn about regex and just do a bunch of practice problems. Because I can get through regexes. I'm not great at regexes, like off the cuff. I must look up everything every time, for the most part. You know, I know what a star does. No, but yeah, I'm not great at regex at all, but it's a pretty powerful thing to know how to do. Isn't there a specific distro of Linux that is made for gaming and plays well with NVIDIA? Yeah, I forgot what it's called. Someone made it, but nowadays, because of the some of the updates that both Ubuntu has made, as well as Steam itself, with the Proton engine or whatever, people usually go just the Ubuntu route. It has a lot of the tools. There's also Play on Linux that's really compatible there as well. Gaming on Linux is much better. It's not great, it's not amazing, but it is good. It's good, especially for like indie games. It's not amazing with AAA titles, but there are some good ones there for sure. Is there ever a kernelless OS? Or is it constant? It's from my understanding. Maybe there is. I don't understand how that would work personally. But yeah, I mean, as far as I know, there's not a kernelless OS. Install Gentoo from scratch. Yeah. Yes. Using Gentoo or Arch. We're about to talk about some of those different distribution families. That can be helpful. I do think the best way to learn Linux is to force yourself to learn it, to be honest with you. If you have a computer that you do some work on and stuff that's not essential, like if you have a backup, it's good. But I installed Linux on my main computer for school when I was in college, and this helped me the most. Like, I had to figure out problems or how to solve them, or else I would be out of luck, to be honest. So it was pretty helpful for me. Let's see. CMOS is solid. But yeah, but there's a bunch that come bundled with a compatible NVIDIA driver right now, because it is installing NVIDIA drivers on Linux is a hassle. It is, man, it is a hassle. Like it's really problematic. Regex is an excursion. I mean, it's not, but it should be. It should be. I got to learn it better first. Maybe I'll have someone else do it who's a Regex pro, and I'll take notes, because again, I can get through pretty much any Regex I need to write, but I don't enjoy it, to be honest. Pop! OS, I guess, is geared towards that, but why not just use Windows? Oh, I agree. Nowadays, well, so why not just use Windows? Yes, I agree with you now. But Windows subsystem for Linux wasn't always a thing, and it is difficult. It used to be difficult. You used to have to do a lot of workarounds to properly do some of the development and systems administration you wanted to do. Like, you used to have to install PuTTY to be able to SSH into anything. Really annoying. A lot of weird oddities with that. So yeah, I'm back to Windows. I'm using Windows full time now as someone who was all the way Linux. So Habanero, like, you're right. You're definitely right. I think you're right. Some people will disagree. WoW runs better on my Oryx Pro than your MacBook Pro. That makes sense to me as well. You know, Linux is lighter, but most of the time it's lighter. All right, distros. Let's talk about Linux distributions. So what are distros? Linux distros are a collection of tools and software packed together to provide a certain experience. This is 99.9% of what a distribution is. So the kernel is one thing. They could all use the exact same kernel, but they could all package up a different suite of tools to give you a different experience. So maybe some of them say, hey, I want this distribution to focus on productivity, so I'm going to make sure it has some type of Office suite on it. I'm going to make sure it has some type of PDF reader, all these things available easily right up front, pre-installed, ready to go. And then I might have a distribution that says, hey, I more so care about security, so I'm going to have all of the tools that you need to be able to do pen testing and all the networking and security things that you want to do, which is true. That's a distribution like Kali Linux, or you may have one like someone said before that's focused towards gaming. And so what it does is it provides you software packaged up for gaming. So maybe it already has Steam libraries and special libraries and binaries you need to run games already set up on their NVIDIA drivers, things like that. So this is different applications, different command line tools that will provide a different experience to you. And so that's the main gist of it. You know, maybe we had a Windows 10 gaming, a Windows 10 security, a Windows 10 productivity, a Windows 10 graphics, whatever. So it's just a different collection of tools and software packages. That's all it is. All right. Nothing crazy special, but there are a crap ton of Linux distributions for you to get super duper confused about. Why are there so many? Well, there are so many because Linux is free and open source, and you can contribute to it, and you can take that code and do whatever you'd like to it. You can create your own distribution at any time, and people do it all the time. But there are some main families. This is very small. It will remain small because there are so many things here. We'll talk about it a little bit deeper, but over here on the left, we have the GNU Linux Project. The GNU is not Unix, Project Linux. So imagine that this is the kernel, this is the start of the project. And then we have a couple of different branches here. Here's what I want you to focus on. I only want you to focus right now. Crap ton is in fact the technical term. You are correct. Hold on, let's get this here. All right, so there are a bunch of different families of distributions based upon other distributions that things usually take. Now, there are many more than that, but for now, I just want you to be aware of 3 of them. And so here's one. First one is Debian. Debian-based distributions are distributions based on the distribution Debian. And so these are things like Ubuntu, Pop! OS, a lot of the things that you're going to use. So this is traditionally been focused towards desktop users, Linux Mint, a bunch of them. These do offer traditionally really good desktop experiences. They are also really good server experiences as well, as most Linux is, but they do provide some of the best desktop Linux that I've ever encountered. I've used a lot of different Linux distributions, but that's all you need to know about that is just kind of what falls into them. Ubuntu is one that falls into it. So is things like Linux Mint and Pop! OS, because I'm going to be using Pop! OS. The other setup here is Red Hat based distributions. And these are the two big ones. These are kind of the two big ones in the market. Red Hat is a company. Red Hat is an organization who has an enterprise, who creates an enterprise version of Linux. Now, they can't charge you for free and open source software, right? So they don't. How do they make money? Well, they make money because they charge you for support, and they make a lot of money doing this. And so they create these distributions that are stable, that are designed for business. So they make sure that they have, you know, enterprise level software compatibility and packages. They make sure things are stable. The focus is stability here, and it's pretty, I mean, it's a good operating system, especially for enterprise users. So this is a very common server operating system. It is not at all a great desktop system. Usually this is for servers, and people pay a lot of money for this. All of the Ubuntu distributions are free. The only thing on here, there are only two distributions that I know of on this list that are paid for, that people have to pay for, and you're not paying for the distribution, you're paying for the support. Red Hat has open source versions of this that you do not have to pay for. One is CentOS. I don't know where it is on this list. I'm surprised it's not right in my face. But there is, oh wow, there's a lot on here. Well, I don't know where it is, but there's Fedora and there's CentOS. So if you want an experience similar to Red Hat, CentOS is basically Red Hat. CentOS and Red Hat, well, used to be. It's not really a thing anymore, but they used to be exactly the same. And one was just one that you self-supported. So that was CentOS. They've changed that up, and now it's not really a thing anymore. There should be something taking its place pretty soon. Fedora, on the other hand, is all of the same tools and features, but it is the distribution that's more so focused on desktop users, and it takes on the cutting edge, bleeding edge software instead of making sure it's stable. So if you want to stay in that world, you can go Fedora if you want to have the cutting edge software available to you. So CentOS I don't think it's been discontinued. They changed the way that it used to be. It used to get updates downstream, but I think they modified that a bit, and it doesn't work in the way that it used to work. Six Figure Dev, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for the raid. Shout out to Six Figure Dev. Good to have you. Everyone from Six Figure Dev, welcome. Welcome. We all want to be just like you, making six figures while doing some development. That's why we're here right now. But it's good to see you. How are you doing today? How was your stream? We're just learning a little bit about Linux and all the cool things Linux has to offer. But CentOS and Fedora are those two Red Hat based distributions. I have no idea where they are on this list at all. Not even a little bit. All right. And the last one is, I would say, Arch is the other one I just want you to know about. There are a lot of distributions. You should dive into it if you want, but Arch is the other one that I would like to put on here. Arch based distributions, but I don't know where that is on here as well. But Arch based Linux distributions are ones where it takes the ethos of, hey, we're going to give you the kernel and you have to create the experience that you want. You only install the things that you want to install. If you want to install it, it's up to you. And so people, there's a high learning curve to these type of distributions, but there's a good trade-off. Usually you get much better performance, and you only have the tools and things that you need. So much lighter, pretty cool. And you can, again, create the experience that you would like to have. There are a bunch of cool ones nowadays where you don't have to do those things. There are things like Manjaro, I think it's Manjaro. Linux, Gentoo is one as well. Gentoo is a little bit harder. There used to be some other projects like Antergos and some other ones, but there are a lot of them that will help you do this without having to know every little nook and cranny and all of that stuff. What does Alpine fall related to these? Alpine, is Alpine Debian based? It uses apt as well. I don't know. That's a good question. Let's see. Let's Google it real quick. I don't know. Is Alpine Linux Debian? See, look, someone already asked. That's the first thing. It's a good question. Secretly, it's security oriented, lightweight. That doesn't tell me. Alpine Linux versus Debian. No, I want to know if it's unlike many distributions. No, so I don't think it is. Oh, maybe it is. It says Alpine is Debian. I cannot confirm that, but Penguin Airlines says yes, it is. So let's do it. I'll go for it. Yes, APK package is the package manager. And that's generally, so that's usually the easiest way. That's the quickest way to tell what something is based off of. I'm not joking. The quickest way you can tell is, it may not be foolproof, but it's correct a lot of the time. Is what package manager it uses to install applications. So it's just like if you got on a distribution and it was using the Windows Store to install your applications, then it's likely based on Windows. And if you got on to a distribution and it was using the Apple Store to install stuff, you could make a good bet that it is using that to install it as well. So what I also want you to know about these distributions is that, again, it's just a package of software and tools, but there are some differences in the way the ethos and where different things are laid out in the file structure and stuff like that as well. So you can actually install whatever you want on any of these systems. They may not be compatible, they may not work perfectly, but you can install just about everything. You can install a package manager from one onto the other. It may install things funny or not at all. It may be tough to get it to work, but it can work. We will talk about package managers a lot, but there are different families. The only families that I think you need to know right now is most server environments are going to have either Red Hat based things, so either Red Hat or CentOS, or they're going to have Ubuntu. To be honest, that's going to be 90% of the things that you run into. There will be others, but for the most part, those are going to be the three that you will run into on a work level, except when you're in the cloud and you have something like Amazon. And so Amazon has their own Amazon Linux system and their own distribution that they've created that has optimizations and stuff like that. It is Red Hat based. It's based on something that you already know. So you might run into that, but yeah, I mean, you'll run into some Unix. You will definitely, you may run into some Unix systems for sure, but Linux systems, you're generally only going to run into either Ubuntu or Red Hat based systems. So Red Hat or CentOS mostly. All right. Temple OS is greater than all. It is the best. So the other system that I was talking about that was that people pay for is SUSE or SUSE. I don't know what it's called. I don't know if it's called SUSE or SUSE, but people pay for that as well. This is not so large here. This is an enterprise Linux as well, but I find that people use it overseas more. SUSE, yeah, people use it overseas more than here, but it is also another one that offers enterprise support licensing as well. But you won't run into this a lot at all in the United States. I know we have people elsewhere, so just keep in mind that as well. I've used it a little bit. Their desktop Linux is pretty darn good, to be honest with you. But yeah, HP bought SUSE and has been strangling them ever since. I believe that 100%. That is what companies like HP do, to be honest. And now it's by Oracle. Very interesting. So pretty interesting there. So those are distributions. Let's keep on moving. Now, virtualization. So it's dead. Basically, it is dead now. That's what people are telling us. But virtualization, I will say I like SUSE's their marketing the best, or their branding. They have like a little chameleon or something. I don't know, some kind of lizard. I like it a lot. It's pretty dope. But virtualization, this is something that I want you to know conceptually more than I care about you getting hands-on with right now. But virtualization, very, very important. Again, something that you actually interact with every single day, whether you know it or not. But virtualization is basically operating system inception. It is an operating system inside of an operating system, okay? It runs via two options. Well, there are actually more options, but these are the main options. There's some interesting pseudo hypervisors now, but runs via hypervisor. There are two types that you should know about. Type 1 is bare metal and type 2 is hosted. What does that mean? All right, here's what this means. Bare metal means that the hypervisor, hypervisor is just a piece of software, okay? And this piece of software allows you to run an operating system inside of another operating system. The ones that are type 1 and are bare metal means that the hypervisor is installed on the system, directly onto the system, like it's its operating system, okay? So there's no Windows, there's no Mac, there's this VMware, ESXi, there's this hypervisor installed directly onto the metal. And then you can install other operating systems inside of that. And I'm gonna draw a picture in a second. The other one is type 2, and type 2 is hosted. This is where there is an operating system and you install a piece of software inside of that operating system. So on Windows, I would install a piece of software called VirtualBox or VMware Player or whatever, but there's a couple of them that do this. But I would install a piece of software that then I can install software inside of. So there is an operating system, and the hypervisor is hosted in an operating system, where the other one is installed directly on bare metal. And in these, you can run virtual machines, which is virtual computers. Containers are not all, so I'll put a star here. I should remove this from the slide. Containers are not, they're not virtualized. Containers are a different paradigm of computing. There are some niche container platforms that do offer a layer of virtualization. There's a bunch of different weird stuff, but cool. I should have removed that from here. But first, let's go back really quick and let me draw you a picture to help out just a little bit. All right. Yeah, containers are very interesting. So normal containers are C groups, and this is a very different concept. That's why there's a star there. Just, there's a star there. There are containers that there are container platforms that do operate on a virtualized layer, and it's pretty interesting. There aren't any of the popular ones for the most part, but yeah, I wanted people to be informed, but it's also confusing. So this is a type 1 hypervisor. I hate this color. All right, this big box right here, there we go. That is your computer. That is the system. That is, look at your laptop or whatever. It is a system with a CPU, RAM, memory, all the other stuff. So normally what you would get is an operating system, but instead we will get a hypervisor, okay? Hypervisor. Again, this is something like VMware. This color is gross. It's like doo-doo brown. But okay, like VMware. And then from here, we can use this software that's installed directly on the bare metal to install other operating systems inside of it, full of virtualized systems, full virtual systems. So in here, I would install a box in here, and that box, we can install Windows Server. Okay. And then we can install, we can install Ubuntu. Then here, we can install Red Hat. Okay, there we go. We could fill it up. So again, resources are finite, computing resources are finite. And so we basically could split up those resources. Let's say our processor had 32 cores. We could give 16 machines 2 cores. All right. You could really give more machines than that, but it depends on what's running it. Yeah, there's more to it than that, but we could split up those resources. If we had 128 gigabytes of RAM, we could allot a specific amount of computing resources to each of these systems. All right. Yes, VMware. So VMware has hypervisors. So VMware itself is a company, but yes, VMware is. So when I wrote it right here, it is the hypervisor. And again, a hypervisor like this, one of the ones they have is ESXi. I think they have like 2 or 3 of them right now. But yes, ESXi is a type of hypervisor. Now, and again, you can install as many as you can fit on there. Until your resources are gone, you can put more and more on there. You can delete these things. You can run them at different times. But let's be very clear. This will change when we get to the container section. You are installing a complete operating system in each of these boxes. So this is a very heavy process. Now, that's type 1. All right. Type 2, which is hosted, is a little bit different. So this one over here, this is actually, let me put this here. This is more efficient. Y'all can clearly see I don't write often anymore, so I can't write very well, but this is more efficient. On this one, I'll write type 1 so you can see it, and this is type 2 over here. And on this one instead, we've got an operating system. Actually, I don't like that. Let's do it clean enough so that it knows to make a rectangle out of this. There we go. And we're not writing hypervisor. We're writing OS right here. And on the OS, so this is Windows, Linux, Mac, they generally work on all of those. And then on here, we install a piece of software, which is the hypervisor. And this is a type 2 hypervisor. And then we can go ahead and install the same things. All right. So we can still do the same stuff. They can be different sizes. So all that, and these are systems. We can do the exact same thing. This is, and let me say what this hypervisor is. So this is something like VirtualBox. And this is something like Windows or Mac. All right, whatever. There we go. And we can do the same thing over here. This is type 2. This is type 1. And again, the first one, type 1, is more efficient when it's installed on the bare metal because you don't have any of the resources dedicated to the operating system, okay? The hypervisor is basically the operating system of this system. So that's all you need to know about it. I will save this and I will put it in the Google Classroom. I have to upload some stuff to the Google Classroom as well. But let's go ahead and, oh, actually this will stay here. So I don't actually have to go through and save this, but yeah. So that's type 1, type 2. And again, you're installing things like Windows, Mac, whatever you want in there. Mac is hard to do, but yeah. Let's see. Workstation is not a hypervisor OS. It's a hosted hypervisor application. Correct. So there are a couple of type 2 options. So some of the type 2 options, that the biggest one is the most popular one usually is VirtualBox by Oracle. There's also, it's free and open source. Well, I don't know if it's open source, but it's free. I think it's open source. There's also a closed source one, a proprietary one called VMware Player. I think that's what it's called. I never use it, to be honest. Workstation Player, I guess, is also free. So VMware does have type 2 hosted option. Yes, VirtualBox is type 2. Yes, Hyper-V. I don't know what Hyper-V counts as. I mean, I'm assuming Hyper-V. I don't know. I'm assuming Hyper-V counts. I'm assuming that Hyper-V counts as a type 2 hypervisor, but that's because I only feel that way because I'm using it on Windows desktop and I'm using it to do things. I feel like it's type 1. I feel like you can do cool server stuff with it that I don't know about. So I don't know. Hyper-V is type 1, Hyper-V is type 1, type 1 and 2. Yeah, see, all over the place. I don't know. I'm not afraid to say I don't know. But Hyper-V, for anyone who's unaware, is a hypervisor that is built into Windows that you have to enable it, but it is something that Microsoft ships out and you can use it to run and manage systems. So, type 2 when it's on Windows, but it's type 1. Yeah, your boy don't know all about that. So I told you I'm very new to the Windows world. I just moved back to Windows. And I'll be honest, I don't know much about it. So I do have VirtualBox running here. I'm going to be using VirtualBox for the night. And so you'll get to see that a little bit more. I also provided you a guide on getting set up with VirtualBox. If you want to try this out, everyone's computer will not be equipped to do this. So there will be some things you have to check. The guide should walk you through those things. All right. Let's see what else I have here for virtualization. VirtualBox, like I said, is one of them. And so it's important to talk about when you're talking about a type 2 hypervisor that some of the terminology. And so it is free and open source type 2 hypervisor. You can create as many guest operating systems as you want. So guest operating systems are the virtualized operating systems you install using the program. The operating system that's running all of it is called the host operating system. So if I was running a virtual machine on this computer, which I am, Windows would be the host operating system, and then anything I was running using it is the guest operating system. And it supports Linux, Windows, and Mac for host operating systems. We're gonna talk about dual booting. We're not gonna do anything with dual booting. Another option, if you want to run Linux, it's dual boot. This is something that a lot of people do. If I can figure out how to do it on the Surface Pro without breaking everything, I might dual boot this so I can run native Linux on here, especially if I can get some pen support going. But dual booting means you have a computer system that has 2 operating systems installed on it. And so you choose the operating system at boot. So you restart the computer, it'll ask you, hey, I see that I have both Windows and Linux installed on here. Which one do you want to use? This is a pretty great option. This is actually the option that I recommend for anyone diving into Linux who wants to really get good at it, but not ruin their Windows partition or their Mac partition. Dual booting is a really good way, but it takes some, there's some caveats to that, especially nowadays with UEFI BIOS options. But yeah, It's pretty interesting. What's up, XM Fortunato? Welcome to the channel. What's up, Matty Args? Thank you so much for the follow. LTN Bob, Lieutenant Bob, I love it. Welcome to the channel. Trini Power Up, welcome as well. Cookie Raisins, welcome. Six Figure Dev, thank you again for the raid again. Just seeing everybody who's in there. SS What Is, welcome. Cherish, welcome. Kusiniri, I tried that one, welcome as well. Curtis Wright, welcome. Digital Soba, welcome. Kinky Hair Coder, again, thank you for the follow. Aerial Pig, all the people. I think the only person I missed was OP Davies. I think I got y'all. Appreciate it. Oh, Linux Surface, that's dope. Okay, I'll be trying it out. I'm new to the Surface family, very new to the Surface family. We've been through a number of iterations of the way that I present this stream. I've been through all kinds of powerful computers and all kinds of different stuff. So far, because I can do the sweet, again, y'all know I love this pen, you know, being able to take a screenshot and be able to go, this is cool. See, I love, every time I do it, I feel like I have the power. That is why I'm really enjoying the Surface right now. So I'll definitely try that out for sure. You know, but this is hooked into a pretty powerful computer that sometimes it hurts not using. I feel like I should be using it because it's got a 3090 in it. I just use it to stream out to, and sometimes it fails. But yeah. All right, WSL is best choice. I'm a big fan of WSL. All right, any questions about virtualization? Let's see. With type 2, are there any restrictions on what OS are running above the host OS? So, kinda. Usually just about anything will work. It's set up in a way. So if I click, let's click Gnu. It'll give you a bunch of options. You probably can't see this; it's pretty small. I can run Windows on top of it, as long as your hardware can support it. There's usually not a problem. We got Solaris here, BSD options, Unix options, Mac OS. Mac's hard to run, to be 100% honest, but for the most part, I've never had anything that I could not run, that I could not figure out how to get running an operating system I couldn't. So there shouldn't be, but you got to make sure you have enough headroom, you got enough resources to allocate to these things. You can choose how much memory and CPU something takes up. And I'll show you guys that. Like there's a whole little section here. Like right now, I'm giving this operating system 4 gigs of memory. I'm giving it 4 threads. I know it looks like 4 cores, but I'm giving it 4 processing threads, or access to up to 4. So it's pretty interesting. You can give it a certain amount of storage, all that other stuff. But no, I don't think there is I've never ran into a true restriction for that. So that's a good question. Hyper-V is the same hypervisor as Zen. First off, Diginomics, you're making me feel old by bringing back Zen. The words, it's not, I mean, it's still a big thing, but the very first virtualization platform I ever touched was Zen. The first company I ever worked for was a web hosting company that purely used Zen for all of their stuff. I learned a lot about Zen while I was there. I'm pretty sure I've forgotten every single thing about it, but pretty dope. Yeah, I didn't know Hyper-V was the same as that, or same architecture at least as that. Surface Book 2, and it does everything you need. So I have a Surface Book as well. My main computer is a Surface Book now. I switched to it once I got this Surface Pro. So this is Surface Pro. It's purely for the streams. I was going to use it as my main computer, but the 12-inch screen for like full-time working was problematic for me. The Surface Book is perfect. I use the pen all the time. If you want to find a way to learn, something that's helped me about the Surface is, I'm telling y'all, you flip the Surface Book around and I just have my video playing on one side and I take notes in OneNote on the other side, and it's just kind of some extreme focus, and it works really well for me. Like, I found it to be very helpful for me. I always thought I would hate 2-in-1s. I always was someone who was like, this is stupid, I don't like any of this, just give me my mouse and keyboard. But I'm getting old and I'm changing my ways just a little bit, just a little bit. macOS, yeah, macOS is on here. It's definitely on here. It's not easy to get working. It's not just gonna work, but macOS is on here. Zen's still heavyweight champ in the VDI space, 100%. Pentium makes me feel old. It makes me feel old as well. Would you be able to explain how to make a sandbox environment and make this separate and separate the network bridge? Yeah, so that would actually be if I understand what you're asking correctly, it would be pretty easy. So by default, by default, these operating systems are pretty sandbox, and they're sandbox in the way that their files are isolated from each other. The way that they're operating, there's some ways to overlap pretty easily with these. Now, out of the box, things like VirtualBox don't offer a lot of the same support as some of the options like ESXi for true separation. But you can absolutely do that through VirtualBox, especially for the networking side of things. You can create all kinds of different networks that you want pretty easily. Sometimes you have to do it in tandem with changes to the actual operating system itself. So definitely be careful about that. You can also mess things up pretty easily, not fully understanding what you can do, but you can change network adapters. You can add network adapters. There's some pretty interesting things you can do because remember, these are virtualized, but everything is kind of coming through the host operating system as well. So these are connected to your host operating system. The internet and everything, the adapter is coming through your host operating system. There are some ways, if you have extra NICs and stuff, you can apply it directly to these virtual machines. So that is possible. If I had an extra adapter on here, which I don't have on my computer, I have a single adapter, but there are some really cool options that you have in here. But we can definitely dive into that another time. We got a lot of Linux stuff to go over, but we can definitely do that. Glad you found the channel. I'm glad you found it as well. Does it make sense to install VirtualBox in my Mac for this course? Yeah, I say go for it. I mean, Mac is fine, but I do think you should dive into Linux a little bit. Even if you install just a Linux server, I don't think it hurts at all. Just the practice of getting Linux installed one time, I think is beneficial. So I don't think it hurts at all. It'll cost you nothing, but a little bit of time, and I think it'll help you. How do you install VirtualBox with WSL? Found it impossible to work. Oh, I don't know. No idea. With Hyper-V. So one, WSL2 does not use Hyper-V, does it? Or it just works. I don't know. It used to be, I know that used to be a problem. I don't think it's a problem anymore. But yeah, I don't know. All right, so let's keep moving because we have a ton. So Linux file system, here we go. Now we're actually getting into the nitty gritties of Linux. This is something we did not go over when we were talking about it in the other course here, but on a Unix system, and I really should have put a star, a Nix system. So sometimes you'll see star NIX, that's Unix, Linux, but everything is a file. Remember, this is a Unix-like operating system. But everything is a file. If something is not a file, it's a process. So that should be the first thing that helps you out. It really helped me out a lot once I realized basically everything is a file or a directory or some special type of file. Even processes and things are basically special forms of files. But the Linux file system is a tree. We talk about this a little bit, but here is that tree. And that tree always starts from the root, and that root is always /, always, all the time, no matter what. The root of a Linux system is /. All right, pretty important to note right there. It is /. And then it's a tree. So then, you can have all these options, and what you're looking at right now are a lot of the main directories, setup for how Linux works. I will share this with you. You do not need to memorize this, but it is something that helps when we're talking about Linux administration and managing a system and knowing where things are. Is that so? It's /. No, it's a /, right? Oh, come on, wait, did I mess this up? This should be a /, right? The methodical guy, thank you so much for the 5 gifted subs. Thank you so much for the love. All of the people who received Zovik and Stranger in the night. What's that? Phase 88 or FZ 88 Black Avatar BTAB. Please thank your gifter for no more advertisements. Thank your gifter for now access to some sweet emotes. You got it all. So welcome. Oh, you tricked me. See Slice in the Mind. I learned from you all. And yeah, /, definitely /. Remember, I told you all I learned a lot from you all. And the way I've been looking at slashes for years, and I never could remember what / was and / was. And you all told me that, imagine a person facing to the right and put some feet. If you put little feet on the /, if it leans forward, it's a /, if it leans back, it's a /, and now I remember it. So thank you very much. But these are some of the systems. These are some of the locations that things are installed. So binaries are where executable user binaries go, and system binaries go in SBin. People call this bin and sbin, and people call this etc. So whenever you need to configure an application, you basically know there will likely be a file in etc or etc. And so you can see a bunch of different things, and it helps to start to understand this. And as you play around, you will start to understand it, and you'll know where to kind of look for things automatically. Whether or not you ever used a tool or anything like that, you will have an idea of where things might be. And so, this is kind of what it looks like. And then it's a tree. So there are other things that go inside of these things, and it just becomes a big tree that you can go through. All right, and this is just another example of the types of things that would go in here. This is just for your reference. I'm not gonna go into this at all right now because it's not important for us right now. It'll just make things a little bit more complicated. All right, so any questions really quick about the Linux file system? Again, we were really light on it. We are trying to get a good understanding of Linux as a whole, just a general understanding so we can dive in. I'm gonna show you this real time in a second so that we can really see what that looks like. But it's just a bunch of files and folders. Linux is not scary. It's just a bunch of files and folders and processes. So yeah. You can't give me like this at a 100 level course. I mean, hey, I'll be struggling sometimes, man. We need more people like Mastermind to teach fundamentals. I appreciate that. Yeah, I do. I think what's always so interesting about the fundamentals courses is that you forget how many fundamentals you forget, or that you forgot to use, and like so much you go focus on all the other things, but like you can get through so much. You can get super far with just being good at the fundamentals for sure. And so it's always pretty interesting. All right, so that's all that is. Let's go into interfaces really quick. We just talked, so this is not like coding interfaces. This is just ways to interface with the computer. You interface with the computer all the time, and you do it one of two ways. Really, nowadays you do it 3 ways. So yeah, we did 3 ways now, and we'll talk about the 3rd way. But the first way is through a graphical user interface, or a GUI. This is the type of interface in which a user interacts with an electronic device via visual indicator or representations. This is desktop Linux. This is Windows. This is Mac, how you're used to using it. If I want to see what's in my directories, I click on this folder, and what's on my desktop. Nothing's on my desktop. What happens if I want to see what documents I have? I click here and I can see this stuff right here, and I can see what's in there, and I'm interacting with this visually. All right, so that's a GUI. That's what a graphical user interface is. It's by graphics. Now, the other option, you might say, what's the other option then? The other way to interact with something is through a command line interface. So yes, technically you have graphics because you need to see the words that are there, but it's really just text. But it processes commands to a computer through the form of lines of text. And so this is generally how server Linux is introduced to you. This is how you interact with server Linux most of the time. It's possible for server Linux to have a graphical user interface, but a lot of times it doesn't, because graphical user interfaces take up more resources, and you don't really need to, all you need is the command line to interact with the computer. Everything that you're doing from, the graphical user interface is essentially submitting commands to the computer. So it ain't no big deal. So if you've ever seen, we've dropped into the terminal before, but if you log in, this is what it'll look like when you hit a Linux computer. It'll drop you. It won't look this pretty. It'll probably just be all white, maybe white and blue, but it'll drop you into something that looks just like this. And this is how you do everything that you want to do with it. All right. So that's the command line interface. The other interface now that we use is voice interfaces. So when you're thinking about Alexa or Google Assistant or Siri, hopefully I didn't set off anybody's phones or anything like that. But those are voice interfaces as well. Just another way to interact and issue commands to your computer. So those are different ways we can do it. When people are usually talking about learning Linux, they're usually talking about learning how to issue commands through the command line interface. And that's why people usually get afraid. But Linux does in fact have a desktop environment. And so it'll help you when I go through that. You did, see, I'll try not to say the G word or the A word at all. But I will be honest with you all, I do think voice interface is the future of our computing. I think that voice interfaces for computers is going to be a huge, for consumer computing, I think it's going to be a really large thing in the future. But that's just my own, that's my own thoughts. This shouldn't be here. I think I said that last time and I never moved it. We'll talk about that later. Let's talk about shells. All right, now here's where we're gonna get hands on. All right, shells. What is a shell? A shell is a program that interprets your input and executes actions based on the input in a command line interface. Okay, so a shell is the thing that takes in what you say and interprets what's supposed to happen when you put that in there. So a shell is what interprets your command, okay, and helps the computer do what it needs to do. Different shells can interpret your commands differently and have different tools and features. So you are now being introduced to some of the fun parts of Linux. Shell wars, for sure, are pretty interesting. And so we're gonna hop straight in and do some of this stuff. The Bourne Shell is kind of Linux's old default shell. It's the original Unix shell. It is the default shell in Unix. And it's referred to as SH. So just SH, it is the Bourne Shell. It is the original gangster for show. It's still used, you can still utilize it, but it's alias now, I think, normally, but it's still available. Bash is the biggest Linux shell now, though. It's called the Born Again shell, and it's the most popular modern shell in modern Linux machines. So this is Bash. Born, if SH is just the Born shell, Bash is the Born Again shell. And again, this is the one you're going to run into in Linux systems a lot. You're going to run into it most of the time. Things are changing a bit, but it's okay. Remember, all these shells they're things that are going to interpret your commands and then turn it into something that the computer can work with. All right. So that's all they're going to do. And then another one I have to throw this one out here. ZSH is a fancy schmancy shell for modern machines. Okay, it's developed on top of Bash, and it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool shell. A lot of people use it, and it's currently the default shell on Mac OS. I will show you how to figure that out. I'll show you how to figure out if it is the default shell. It's not the default shell on all Macs. The move to ZSH being the default shell on Macs is relatively recent, like within the past 2 years, maybe year and a half. But it won't be on all of versions. I guess so. If you're not upgraded to Catalina Plus, I also think that if you had certain settings, it didn't shift over even in the upgrade to Catalina. But yeah, ZSH is probably the shell that you have, but I'll show you. It may be old as dirt, but it's the new it's the one that people spent significant energy on to make fancy. Look at this over here to the left. Look, that's beautiful. Okay, we ain't out here being beautiful. It's the and adoption of it, mass adoption of it is relatively new in comparison to other things. So yeah, if you manually edited shells, okay, it didn't update. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely just a theme. It's definitely just this theme, but I'll show you, I'll show you some of the things that have been added that are new for this. So let's hop in real quick before we get into all the other Linux stuff. Let's dive in and look at desktop Linux a little bit. Let's get a feel for it. Ask your questions. I'll keep an eye out. We'll get some things answered, but this is kind of a break time to kind of explore what desktop Linux looks like, because you might be thinking, okay, like let me see what it looks like. And this is a brand new installation, of Pop OS. Okay, Pop OS is a Debian based distribution. It's actually based directly on Ubuntu, which is Debian based. But here we go. Let me change it so that you can actually see what's going on here. It has all the cool stuff that you would expect. And it looks, you might say, oh, I didn't know Linux could look so good. And this looks terrible to me right now because I love Linux because of the amount of customization you can have. But you have all the things that you thought you might have or might not have on a system. You do have. Yes, I have Firefox already installed right here, looking good. If I want to install things like Chrome, I can install Chrome super easy. All right, it's a full thing that you can do. I love Pop OS. Here's the thing. Let me tell you. Whoa, oh, that's LibreOffice. Okay. What is it? I don't know what just happened here. Everything opened up. But I love Pop OS. As someone who's dealt with Linux for a long time, I purchased a System 76 computer when you are tired of dealing with the Linux mess you might deal with, and everyone, I'm not saying that to say that Linux is problematic. Linux can be problematic because it's designed for everything. It's designed to run on whatever. And you know, like these aren't any, it's the same problem that Windows has, to be honest, but there are no dedicated people, because it's free and open source, developing drivers and things for new computers and stuff that come out. So Linux compatibility with your home hardware, the computers you have, may be hit or miss, and you may have to do some fancy stuff to get it working, and it may be unreliable. This is certainly a huge problem with the past. It is not so much a problem anymore. Like, it's not nearly as big of an issue, but for someone who's dealt with that for years, and then I moved to Pop! OS and a distribution that when I just wanted to just use my computer to get stuff done. The thing that people love about Macs, it just works. It just worked. Even for me, Pop! OS has always even just worked on hardware that I've installed it on outside of System 76 computers. System 76 doesn't know me at all. They've never sponsored us or anything like that. I speak very highly of them because the best Linux experience I've ever had has been with System 76 products. And I do mean that. I 100% mean that. And so that's why I use Pop! OS. It's super reliable. It has a lot of customizations. Now, Pop! OS is special because they develop it, like they have in-house engineers who are making drivers and making firmware for their systems that this stuff runs on, but they have people making this thing great, dedicated to making this thing great, and it makes it super easy to do this. Yes, Pop! OS is a Linux distribution, and the company is called System 76. I might as well pull them up on their own distribution right now, and you can buy a computer straight from them. They're not super cheap, but you get amazing support. It's all about what you want. I support them as much as I can, to be honest, but they make some pretty cool computers. Now, I'll be honest, these are not things that they make. They're laptop companies, Chinese laptop companies. One's called Clevo, one's called Sager. There's a couple of them that they make generic computers that people can kind of take and put their own branding on. So they purchase those, but their teams do develop the firmware and develop the drivers and make sure that everything is working perfectly, and they provide updates and all that other stuff. It's pretty dope. They are working on building their own laptop, I'm pretty sure, but they do have their own desktop. They developed their own desktop called the Thelios, which it has open source design. It's pretty interesting, but they make their own desktops, like custom created. It's pretty dope. It is a pretty cool company. And you don't want to buy a $7,500 computer right now, but they've got some really cool laptops that are pretty dope if you do want to check them out. What's up, Jira 2K5 or Gara 2K5? Good to have you. Welcome. Yeah, full disk encryption, also core boot, open source BIOS, pretty dope. Think about 76 now. Yeah, no, seriously, if you are a Linux user, I think that you want things to just be great and work, this is the way to go. I'm not joking. Hardware is not always the best. It's kind of hit or miss between the models, but just do a bunch of research and check it out. Also, ThinkPads. If you are interested in doing this, get yourself a cheap ThinkPad and go for it. ThinkPads are the best for sure for doing this if you want some hardware that's compatible. Oh, so Lenovo, people make ThinkPad. They also have certified Linux laptops that you can purchase from them, but they're all their expensive models. They're like workstation models, so watch out for that. So does Dell. Dell has something called the XPS 13 Developer Edition. You got to search for it. It won't just find it on the site, but they will also install Linux on it for you and provide you support for it if you are interested in that. Thought I'd share it if anyone wants to really dive into some Linux. I have 4 interns or 4 apprentices, and they all have ThinkPads right now with Pop! OS installed, and that's how they got to do things. But this is desktop Linux, and we got some cool stuff here. So if you want to see files, this is just like your Mac. Or what? I have my desktop. I have my documents. I have all of this pictures. I can do all the cool stuff. I can get VS Code on here. I can get a lot of the cool applications that you use day to day. I can get on here, but there are application compatibility issues. That's the biggest thing keeping me personally from using Linux full time. Like you can't reliably get Microsoft Office on here. You can't reliably get things like the Adobe Creative Cloud, stuff like that can be hit or miss for development purposes. This is this is the best place to do things, to be honest. But yeah, that's you can get all of it. They have a pop shop, a little store That's like the Apple Store and stuff. So, you know, if I want to get VS Code, look at this. Install it. I don't need to know anything fancy for my desktop experience. Now, I still recommend you do, but like, look at that. It's going to install it for me and I'll be able to open it up just like anything else. Things like Google Chrome, Slack, you saw that there, Slack, everything you need. Oh, when I worked for the organization I used to work for, when I used to work for Fearless, I use Linux all the time. My computer, I was the only person who grabbed a Windows computer instead of a Mac, and I wiped it, installed Linux on it, and definitely did that. But yeah, I can install whatever I want on it. Pretty dope. But this is what desktop Linux looks like. Now, what's up, Cherub Chase? Welcome to the channel. What's up, Pujart3 Hago? Welcome as well. Alv Dubbin, welcome as well. Good to have you. But it's a really nice desktop experience. It's not what you probably had in your head about what something like this looked like. And generally it operates really fast. It's something really good to put on older computers as well. It will, because it's lighter than Windows, it will make your computer a little bit faster. So cool. That's just your introduction there on that. Let's get back. I wanted you to see it a little bit, but we talked about the Linux file system. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to just show you that there are, like, I mean, it's just files and folders. I'm going to show you some stuff from the command line. It's going to make it super easy to see what's happening when I show you the command line side by side with a visual representation of what's happening. That's what we're about to do now, because we're about to get into our first commands of the night, and we'll have plenty of time to get through all of it, I think. So let's do it. File pathing. We talked about this the other night. There are two file paths you need to know. This is probably the most important piece to working with Linux that you need to know while we're going through the entirety of the remainder of this course. While you're dealing with Linux, file pathing is very, 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 very important. Okay. So how does file pathing work? File pathing is simply the way that you get to different destinations on your computer to get to certain files, the way you reference certain files, the way that you can access them. So Linux directories, we talked about, they have a tree structure, and you can follow the nodes on that tree to get to any file and directory you would like to get to. All right. So we saw that example that is back here. Let's go back even farther. All right, so this is a node, and if I want to get to something that might be inside of boot, you know, I can go to that node, and then I can keep going to the nodes that I need to go to. So it's a tree structure, and you can follow the path of that tree to get to any file or folder that you want to get to. Go farther. I went the wrong way. All right. Absolute file pathing is the complete and full path necessary to get from the root of the system. Take it on back. Where did we say the root of the system was? We said the root of the system is always at /. All right, so to get from the root of the system tree to the file or directory that you desire. So absolute means always the complete path starting at the root. So starting at / every single time. The root of every single system is, Linux system is /. Therefore, that means every absolute file path must begin with a /. All right, so think about this like directions. Think about this like the full directions for you to get from here to Target. All right, the closest Target to your house. If that's where you wanted to go, the directions, you know, you would use your home, the route would be your house basically, and the full directions it takes to get there is the absolute file path that you need. Absolute meaning everything that you need. And remember, it always starts with a /. If you see it start with a /, here's an example: /home mastermind documents file.txt. It starts with a /. This is you know immediately that this is an absolute file path. You know that this file path starts from the root of the system. All right. The only other option you have here is relative file pathing. So we have absolute starting from the very beginning of the system, the root of the system. Relative file pathing is the path necessary to get to the file or directory that you desire, but it's done, instead of doing it absolutely, it is done relative to the location that you're currently at. All right. So you're traversing that tree, trying to get to where you are. And before it would give you the directions from the very top. Now it's giving you the directions from wherever you are currently located relative to the location of this file or directory. So since absolute file paths begin with a /, relative file paths do not. Those are your only two options. Either they start with a / and it's absolute, or they do not begin with a / and it is a relative file path. Oh yeah, Cherish, we'll talk about that in a second for sure. That's a good one. So an example of this would be documents, tests, test1.txt. It does not start with a slash. There's no slash in the front of this example, okay? And so this is a relative file path. Relative file paths mean you need to be next to that road. You need to be next to that node. So I can't be somewhere else on my like where I currently am to give a relative file path. Again, it's relative to where I am. So I have to have access to moving into documents, and that's going to make a little bit more sense right now. All right. I haven't taught you command line navigation, but I'm going to show you what this means. Why does it keep changing? What's this thing called? Display settings. And let's go 200. Again, let's keep it. Let's open up a terminal. This is the base terminal that comes with it. I don't love it, but we can go with this. And let's also open up one of these baddies right here. Now, don't worry about the commands that I'm inputting. Oh no, I can't control plus this, but you can see it a little bit. Cool. All right, so I'm gonna move into the same place that this is. Well, actually I am. So right now I'm in, I think you all understand what's happening over here. I'm in the home directory, and in the home directory, I have all these things. I have desktop folder, a documents folder, a downloads folder, a music folder, a pictures folder, a public folder, a templates folder, a videos folder, okay? So first, you're about to learn about these commands, but I'm in my home folder. So this home right here, it's actually this. I'll explain this to you later as well. But if I look at what's in here, I can see the same things. I can see there's a desktop, a downloads, a pictures, a templates, documents, music, public, videos. Now, first, I'm gonna do this command again. Don't worry about the command, you're gonna learn it. But it gives me a file path. It gives me a location of where I currently am, but it gives it to me as what kind of path? An absolute file path. How do you know it's absolute? Because it starts with a slash. So the farthest place I can go is slash. So I'm here at slash right now. If I wanted to get to this location, home mastermind, I could use the absolute path, which is home mastermind. All right, this is gonna make more sense. Again, when I show you how to get around, you don't know what's happening, but the absolute file path is simply the full path from the root. Now, currently, I'm in this directory. I'm in the mastermind directory. Now watch this. I'm no longer in the mastermind directory. I'm actually in just home. I know that can be confusing when you're looking over here. Don't sweat it. I'm not in the mastermind directory anymore. Before, this is the command that I ran to get into mastermind directory. I can always run this whenever I want. Why? Because this is the full directions to where I need to go. But if I want to get to mastermind relative to where I am now, mastermind is the next node in the tree for me where I currently am. So I can just type in mastermind and I'll get there. But if I go back to this location, which is slash, I'm at the root of the system, mastermind doesn't exist here. If I do an ls, mastermind is not a node that it can see, that it knows I can go to. And if I try to go into mastermind, I cannot go there because it is not the next node here. So don't sweat it, I just want to throw it at you first. We'll learn a little bit more, and then I think it'll fill in some of the knowledge there. So all the commands that I'm doing, you're like, whoa, what is happening? What is this guy doing right here? Well, what's happening is I am getting around the CLI. I'm navigating the CLI. As this main Haro, nope, Pop OS, Lego Logic, and it does look like my Haro a little bit. It definitely does a little bit for sure. What's up? Tater to differ. Oh, okay. You know, I tried that. It's far away from me. What's up? Alicia O, welcome. Big Ant Rod, welcome. Spear Das. E Kofo, welcome as well. Good to have you all. Linux Mint is pretty dope. It used to be my go-to operating system. Haven't used it in a very long time though, but Linux Mint is pretty dope. So command line navigation, that is what we were just doing. That is what we are about to learn. Commands over clicking. We're not doing anything fancy here. We're simply navigating our computer with our commands rather than a mouse. All right, so when you're dropped into a Linux server and you don't have a graphical user interface, you want to learn how to move around. You want to know how to traverse that tree that we were talking about. The file structure is a tree. You want to understand how to get around that and how to get to different places on the computer where you need to get things done. So that's what we're going to learn right now. So the first one is, how do you, before you start to navigate, think about real life. When you're in your car, you got to know where you are before you can figure out where you got to go. So how do I find out where I am? To find the current location that I'm currently at in the directory tree, I use the pwd command. This is print working directory. I always say present working directory, but it's print working directory, and it will print out the current directory that you are in, the working directory that you're in. And to see what is in your current location in the directory tree, you can use the ls command. This tells you what nodes are next in that tree that you can move to, okay? Does ll equal ls? In my case, it does. You won't always be able to run ll. It won't always be available. Yes, ll is something called an alias. When I'm typing in ll, it's actually running an ls command that has some extra stuff along with it to make it easier. But yes, when you see me type in ll, I'm gonna try to stop doing it. I'm gonna try to stop, but I'm gonna do my best to stop typing it right now, but it's hard. It's natural for me to do. But yes, when you see me type in ll, it is ls. Can't you just use dir? That's a good question. I don't know. So dir, Windows, you can use dir. I don't know is dir a thing on Linux? If it is a thing, you taught me something new today, because I have no idea. Very interesting. So it looks like dir will give you all the stuff as well. This is very interesting. Now, is this only directories? No, it's got ini files. Very interesting. I've actually never used a dir command in Linux. Didn't even know you could have a dir command in Linux. I will also tell you that almost no one types dir. I've never seen anyone type dir, but I don't know what it is, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously I can see what it is, but it looks like it gives you an interesting output for ls with maybe some missing things, but yeah. Okay, dir, I've never used that before. Something new. Yes, you could do that if you'd like, I guess, but ls is generally the option that people are going to use. Let's get back in here. So actually, let's learn all about the navigation first, and then we'll do it. So if you want to see where you are, you use the pwd command. If you want to see what nodes are available to you that you can move to, you can do an ls. All right. Then if you want to move into a new node or a new space, if you want to move to a new space on the directory tree, a new directory that is on the tree, you use the cd command for change directory. So if you want to go somewhere, change the directory. Pretty simple command. You type in cd, and this is where paths are important. Then you give it the path to the place you want to go, okay? This is where you're putting the address in the GPS. You cd into the directory that you want to go. You don't have to move one directory at a time. You can move many directories. You just got to know all of the things that are in that path. I'll show you how to figure that out as well. If you want to ever go back a directory, if you ever want to go back up the tree one directory, you do it with a dot. So if you ever want to go back one, you do cd dot, okay, period. And that will take you back one directory, because this is important to know, because if you do an ls, you won't see the directories that are behind you, or up the tree a little bit. So just, I'll show you how to see that as well. And we'll stop there for a second and let's go do it right now. Let's get back in here. I don't know why it's switching the, what's that thing called? It's switching the, my mind is blanking, hold on. Displays, it's mostly because I can't see because it's too small. The scaling, switching the scaling up on us. Here we go. All right, so right now I'm in my home directory, okay? I know you don't know this yet. The tilde is, if you ever see a tilde, that is an alias for your home directory. The home for the user is usually /home/ the person's username, and that is where I am. So if you want to orient yourself, if you want to see where you are, pwd shows me the present, well, prints the working directory that I'm currently in. Now, that's this home directory. If I want to move in to another directory, if I type in ls, I can see the next nodes in the tree, and I can see everything that's right here, I can see. So if I want to go into this folder, the way that you would do it from a GUI, if I want to go into my documents from a graphical user interface, that's what you would just click on it. Now, you know, I'm in my documents folder. Really nice, really great. But the way that I can do that here is type in the cd command for change directory. And I type in cd documents. All right. And now it tells me, it usually will give you in your prompt that I am in my documents now. Now, let me, I'll show you something in a second, but let's go through this first. But I changed directory into my documents. We are in the same place. I'll show you how you know you're in the same place. Right now, I can prove it to you. If you are unsure, I did an ls, there's nothing here. Over here, it says folder is empty. Let me go ahead and create a new folder called test. And I made it a new folder on my computer. You all have done something like this on your computer before. You've created a new folder or a new file, no problem. And over here, I type in ls, I can see a directory here. This is to show you that what the commands that you're issuing right here are managing the same computer. This isn't a different world. This isn't a different thing. You are managing the computer the same way that you were doing it over here on the right. You're just doing it through commands. So it's, don't be too afraid of it, because you're just doing the things that you already have done with the computer. It's not something super crazy special or magic at all. So I created that there. I can remove it from over here if I want. I can't type. Wow, I'm struggling today. And now it's gone from over here. Same thing. I can create a directory. I can do whatever I want. All right, so I moved into this folder. What if I want to go backwards a directory? If I want to go back up a directory, I was already at the home directory, okay? Again, that's an alias for home, so /home/mastermind. If I want to go back one, type in cd ... and it takes me back up the directory tree just a little bit, back to this direction. And I can go into any of these folders that I would like. Now, remember, we're talking about those absolute file paths versus relative. You can always use an absolute file path. You can always use a relative file path, but an absolute file path never changes. The place in which when you put a file on the computer, no matter where you are on the computer, the location of it is always going to be at the absolute file path. So if you know the absolute file path, you never need to think about anything else. But that relative file path is going to change depending on where you are. So just keep that in mind. It's relative to where you are. So that file path will change depending on where you are on the computer. So I could always get into my videos file, even though it's next node on the list. Yeah, I can get into it by doing cd videos, and I can get into it. All right. But I also, from the same location, I'm back where I was. I can also get into it by doing cd/home /mastermind videos. I can also get into it this way. This is the absolute path. This is the full path to this node in the system, starting at the root of the computer. It's a concept that takes you, it definitely takes a little while to master and to truly understand. All right. If you don't know the path of the file, this is a very handy find command. Oh, that's good. A find command is dope. Yep, that's another command that you can use. We'll dive into some of that stuff on Wednesday. But yeah, find/file name, and you can find the path to your to that file. So what I really want you to get out of this right now is simply having a light understanding of relative versus absolute file pathing. And I want you to understand a little bit that, hey, all I'm doing is moving to different directories on the computer. And the way that I do that is with the cd command. And there's some other options I have in there. I can figure out where I am with the pwd command. I can see where I'm at with the ls command. These are very, very important commands that you will use very, very heavily. Man, I gotta stop doing that. All right, 8:28. Let's get through the slides, and then we'll just play inside of here. So let's get out of host mode. All right, tab completion. Well, so one, you can also do some cool things like make directories. You saw how I right clicked and made a directory. You can also make directories from the command line. You can do everything from the command line, first off. But one of the ways we can make a directory is through the mkdir command. We will do that and then specify the name of the directory. And you can also remove a directory with rmdir or rm-rf. I'll teach you those in a second as well. Just know that I want you to know that you can do these things. And tab completion, I'll go over tab completion in a second as well. You don't have to type everything out. This is a concept that I want you to know about now, but it's one that I do not want you to focus on at all. Tab completion is helpful. It'll probably take you months, if not years, to start using this as incorporate it into your muscle memory and to kind of understand what to do with this. It is something that the deeper and deeper you get into Linux, you will find to be very, very helpful. It is extremely useful, but it's not something you need to know off bat. I just want you to be aware of it because it might help you sometimes. Let me see. Is this the last? Okay. Let's do this one, and then we'll go play with these, and then we'll come back for the users and groups part. So CLI concepts. Now, you saw me enter in a command. A command cd is a Linux command. These commands are actually just little applications. You're actually just executing little applications. When I type in ls or stuff like that, it's actually just executing little binaries that exist on the computer. But the command was cd. So cd is to change directory. That is the actual command, but everything that came after it is something called an argument. So when I pass the directory to it that I wanted to cd into it, it is taking that into the command and determining what to do with it. But commands are cool and all, but sometimes we need to be specific. Flags allow us to modify the behavior or output of a command. Flags are prefixed by a dash. So you'll see some dashes here. So that's for flags, but arguments I put farther up the list. Maybe here. Which shouldn't be here, I should move it. But arguments, these are additional things that can get passed in or included with the command at runtime. So when the command is run, sometimes these are positional parameters. Usually they're positional parameters, meaning the location of the argument matters. So the first thing that you type in will always be the command. And so let's look at something like this. Let's clear this out. The ls command, when I type in ls, that is the command that we're going to be running. But sometimes you might see me pass in a flag like -l. You see that dash? This is a flag. This changes the way that the command operates. It changes what you can do. It changes the functionality of the command that I'm inputting. All right, so you can see here, when I type in ls the first time, it goes like this. And when I add in this flag here, it changes the output that I have here. I can put different flags in here, and you know, it actually did change the numbers here in the middle column, changed a little bit, and I can pass different things. These are flags, but also I can, when I do a cd command, if I do cd, even like documents right here, this is actually what's called an argument. This is something that's passed into this application. So cd command is taking this in, and it is telling me where to go. If I type in something else here, let's say desktop, nothing happens. Check that out, what it says. It says too many arguments, right? Because this cd command, it's only designed to take in one. All right, it's designed to take in one, so I passed it too many. And it says, hey, I don't know what to do. You just passed in a bunch of different things. You just added too many arguments to what we're doing, and I don't know what to do with that. So sometimes things will. These are at different positions. This is at the first position, this is at the second position. I don't know if any of you have ever used if you haven't learned about programming yet, you never talk about indexes. You know, the location of these things matters, and you can actually refer to them if you're writing a bash script or something. You can actually get the information, you can actually use the information by referring to its place here. So number 1 and number 2, you could refer to them when you're doing some cool stuff. We'll do some bash scripting with that as well, so don't sweat that. But sometimes their position matters. But if it has a little dash, it's a flag. These flags are arguments as well, kind of. You can think about them being the same. You don't always have to put the dash there, but something good to know about that. And the other thing I want you to know about some CLI concepts is, how in the world do I know what I can do? How in the world do I know like what commands there are? And you'll see me do a lot of new ones. There's a billion different commands out there. You're literally controlling the computer with these things. And the way that you know what commands are available to you and what you can do with them is, one, to Google it. If you're ever like, bro, how do I move a file to a new place. I want to move this file from my documents to downloads because I put it in the wrong spot. Or how do I find out how much memory is on this computer? Google it first. Please Google it first. Google it. That's the number one. That's number one. All right. Not only Google what the command is, but if you know the command, but you're unsure what arguments or things to pass in while you're learning, Google it. I'm telling you, this is the easier option. People might get mad at me, but yes, we're gonna talk about tab completion. I'm not saying you shouldn't use it. I think it'll take you a while to incorporate it. I'm gonna show you tab completion for sure. But the second thing you should do, the other option is to read the manual on this. And reading the manual is to me, I'll go to bat with people all day over this. It is an intermediate skill. I don't care what you say. It's an intermediate skill to be able to read the manual for this. A technical documentation is an intermediate skill. Reading technical documentation is an intermediate skill, but I'm going to show you this as well. And you do this with the man command. Yes, TLDR is dope. TLDR, you'll have a link in your Google Classroom at the end of this for TLDR. That was what I was going to tell everyone to install for sure. But yeah, short bombs, absolutely do not include the dash when Googling flags. Is helpful. This is something that you all will learn. You will learn very fast how to get the information you need about Linux commands from Google. To be honest, it's a pretty cool concept. It's interesting how it changes, but this is how you can do it. I'm going to show you what a man page looks like, what a manual page looks like, so you can see it. Again, I think it's an intermediate concept. Absolutely, if you want to do it, you should do it. But I don't want you to get too frustrated. I think it'll frustrate you, but I do want you to get in the practice of seeing it and knowing that it's available to you. But yeah, so all the stuff we just learned. Here we go. Let's go through and let's play around inside of Linux and touch. No pun intended. And I haven't shown you the touch command, so you might not understand why that's a pun. You might just think it's a dirty thing that I'm saying. But yeah, there's some cool commands. We'll just play around with these different things really quick before doing users and groups, because those are pretty important. All right, let's no, just stick, stay at 200. All right, here we go. This is what we're gonna do. We'll do a couple different things for this here. So we learned a few different things. One is let's pop back to that make directory command. So the same way I made a folder over here, let me go ahead and make a folder in documents. So I could do this in two different ways, and this is why file paths work, why you need to know them. So if I wanted to make something, another folder inside of the documents folder, how would I do that? The first way I could do it is I could move into documents folder. So I could change my working directory to documents, and then I can make a folder. mkdir was that command, make directory, and I can make a directory called test1, whatever I want to call it. And it pops up immediately over here. I'm controlling the computer through my commands. There's nothing in test1. And now I could go into test1 if I wanted. Nothing here. All right, well, let me go back. We'll go back to where I was. I could also make another directory in here by doing it via path. So when you see me typing in the path, when I typed in test1, I am giving it a path to the folder that I wanted to create. It's a relative path. I'm currently in the documents node. When I just type in something without a slash, that is a relative file path to the next place, and I make test1. But I could also do it from here. I could say make directory, and I can say documents. All right, it's a relative file path relative to where I am. There's no slash on the front, and I can say make a new directory called test2, and I can do it right here. Great. I could also create one inside of test1. Let's say I wanted to add a new directory inside of test1. Whoops. And I want to create a new one called Aaron is the best. And so I make a new folder inside of documents test1, and I make Aaron is the best. And so if we click test1, there's now this folder inside of here. So these paths matter, but I could also, inside of Aaron is the best, I could say from wherever I was, I could do the absolute file path. I could say /home, mastermind, what am I doing? Test, mastermind documents, test one, Aaron is the best. And I guess just, random folder here is what I can make. This is an absolute file path. So, you just need to understand that it's a tree starting from this root, and you can make anything anywhere. You can deal with anything anywhere if you follow the tree path, okay? You also saw me typing that in, and I'm a terrible typist, but I was typing it pretty darn fast. Oh, it seemed like I was. That was tab completion right there. Tab completion is super helpful if you don't know what's going on. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go back to the root of the system. This is the very root of the computer, / okay? My present working directory is /. Let's say, the way the tab completion works is tab completion completes it attempts to complete the command that you were trying to run. So this does work on some distributions out of the box with commands, but especially this is particularly useful for file paths, okay? And so what it'll do is it'll do some string matching. And so I'll say CD, and I wanted to get to where I was. So I was in the home folder. So if I say starting from /, I type in H. And so if I type in H and I hit the tab key, the whole entire word home comes up. All right. The whole entire word home comes up. A directory comes up with a / after it. Okay. Why did that happen? I only typed in H and I hit tab. Well, it is looking through here, and it sees that the only word that can match H is home. So it knows that this is the word that it knows that this is the only thing that I could be trying to get to if I typed in things correctly. So it auto completed that. Now you can hit tab. So I only have one directory in here. I don't know what's in this home directory right now. I haven't looked at what's in this home directory, but I actually only have one thing in there. So when I hit tab again, it auto completes it for me because there's no other options. It's giving you the best option for what you're typing in. And so right now, if I hit tab, nothing happens because there's more than one directory here. But if you hit tab twice, if you're ever confused about what's next in the list, if you hit tab twice, it will show you what options you have available to you. So inside of Mastermind, I have all of these folders, okay? And let's say I want to go into my documents again. And if I type in capital D and I hit tab, nothing happens, okay? But if I hit it again, it shows me that I have a couple different options. Why didn't it autocomplete? It didn't autocomplete because when I type in capital D, there are 3 different options it can have for capital D. Desktop, documents, and downloads. You must give it enough unique letters to make sure it knows exactly what until there's only one option. And so I can type in an O, and what's gonna happen if I type in an O? If you look at this, what's gonna happen? It's gonna match both of these, but it's not gonna autocomplete because there are 2 that still exist. And so if I wanna get the documents, when I type a C, it's the only one that can be there. And if I hit tab, it auto-completes it. This is very nice for a long file path. So like if I'm ready to go and I wanna get to where I was, type in home, mastermind, documents, test, let's go test 1. And I can get all the way to this directory as fast as I wanna get to if I wanna go ahead and do that. Again, don't worry about tab completion right now. Understand what it is. All it does is it tries to complete the command that you're currently writing. It works best with file path. It does work with other things. If you have it set up, you can install different tools to have it autocomplete commands for you and stuff, other commands for different packages and stuff like that. But for file paths, that's when tab completion works best. Something you should know about, something you should try to incorporate if you can, but it'll take you a while to start actively doing that on a consistent basis. What's up, Tuples XYZ? Good to have you. What's up, 0day99? Stranger Mojo, good to have you. Dira, how are you doing as well? Scottis Emo, actually Scott's Timo fixed it. Welcome. Lucas, how are you doing? Heating DHS, welcome as well. The Elijah 16, welcome. I think I got everyone else on this list. All right. So a couple of basic Linux commands. Again, let's cover it again. CD is how you change directory. That's how you move to a new file, a new directory that's on that tree. You can only CD into a directory. Change directory, you can only move into a new directory. You can't move into a new file. Okay. We learned to go backwards, you do CD ... That's to go backwards one. This does not mean you just saw me do something different than we talked about. I did a CD minus. All right. This is a different command. This is something a lot of people don't know about. I didn't know about it for a really long time. But look at where I was. This part always shows you where you are. And so I was in this, and I started out in slash. Then I went here because I CD'd into it. And then I did CD minus and I ended up back here. CD ... takes you up the directory tree one. It does not take you to where you just were. It takes you up a directory tree one node. So if I was here and I did a CD ... it would take me back to here. It would only take me back one up the node. Up the tree. The CD minus takes you back to your last location. So it took me all the way back to here, which was my last location. Another helpful thing, but again, it's not super important in the very beginning of what you're trying to do. So we're gonna have some practice things that it's gonna take you through on. You're gonna have a lot of Linux practice on Wednesday. It's gonna drop with a bunch of different things to do. Like make a directory here, make a directory here, make a directory here, move back and forth. We're gonna learn deeper make directory commands and stuff as well tomorrow or on Wednesday. But those are the basic navigation is what I want you to focus on for now. And then the other thing that we're gonna learn about before we play around even more, because I think we're gonna have time to do it, and we can run through a little sample of what something you might do using all these commands. Can I alt tab out of this? I cannot alt tab out of this. I have to host key F it. The other thing I want to talk about really quick is users and groups and the management of users and groups. This was supposed to be gone. Let me actually delete this before you can get confused. All right, users and groups on a system. Remember, this is a computer. On your Mac, on your Windows, there are users that can log in. And you probably don't know about groups yet, but you probably never use that on your Mac or your Windows computer. But there are two types of users: normal computer users and super users, or root. Very important Linux concept right there. The administrator on, I think it's administrator on Mac, administrator on Windows is actually called root. And this is called a super user on Linux. If you want to see the users, you can look at this file. Remember, everything is a file or directory in Linux, basically, and you can look at this etc password file to see the list of users if you want. There are other ways to get users as well. Common way to do it. Just giving you some common ways to do some stuff. Add user. The way that you add a user is add user username. There's also a user add command. It gets kind of confusing, but yeah. What's up, Rockstar74? Welcome. How are you doing? Everyone, please give Rockstar a round of applause and thank you for the raid while we are learning some Linux this week. Rockstar is a member also of the no, not programmers. You're part of the Only Devs. So I'm in a couple different groups. So if you see the little Only Devs link, you can give him a follow. Does some cool stuff on his channel in the science and tech section as well. Appreciate you coming through. Let me give you a little shout out. We tried to raid Rockstar the other day. We got him as soon as he left. I'm sorry we missed you then. But welcome. Hope you had a great stream this evening, but you can definitely go over and give them a follow. It's all good. You know, it happens. It definitely happens. But welcome everyone from Rockstar's channel. What's up, Codico? How are you doing? VG Stuffed. We are simply learning. This is an 8-week course in learning some DevOps and engineering, DevOps and site reliability engineering concepts called pipelines. This is the apprentice level, so level 1. This whole week we are learning Linux, and we're gonna be diving into some more stuff as the weeks go on. But yeah, go have a good night. I understand it. Go get some food, all that stuff. All right. Why not have some fun with SC Shadow? We can look at SC Shadow. You know, we can do all that stuff. You know, we're messing around. We're messing around here. So you can add some users, you can remove some users to your system, and you can do it all through the command line. So add user and delete user. I'll show you the differences between those two. ZZ Kai, thank you so much for the Twitch Prime sub. Thank you for the love. Congratulations on no more advertisements to this channel. Password, the command sets passwords. SC password is the original user database from the old Unix days. Correct. passwd is the command that sets passwords, 100%. And so groups in Linux are similar to groups in Linux are simply groups of users. That's all it is. And it makes permissions It makes dealing with permissions and granting access to things easier. And so you can put users into a group, and then you can assign permissions to that group to determine what they have access to. And so groups are a pretty cool concept as well. And you can see all the groups by looking at Etsy groups. You can add groups through group add command, remove groups through group delete, and you can add a user to a group through a user mod command. And so this is kind of confusing, but take a look. It's got some flags here. So it's user mod -A, which is, I think, append, and -G is to the group, and the group, and then the user. It can get complicated. So you're basically passing in some flags and some arguments to make some cool things happen. Let's run through those because I know that's confusing. All right, and that's the last slide. Now we're gonna go for the last, we have more than 10 minutes to play. That's plenty to kind of play around and look at some of these concepts. So I'm gonna teach you a few things here. Why is it like this? This is what happens with a brand new Linux setup. There's all these like weird settings, and I probably need to install like all the little extra VirtualBox plugins and stuff. All right, so another command you can do. All right, Trish, head on out. Thanks for coming through, having a good time. Thank you for contributing to the conversation. I do, in fact, appreciate it. Good to have you. For a minute after the class, perfect. Yeah. I'll hang out a little bit. I'll hang out for a few minutes once we're done. Answer some questions because we've been going through a lot tonight. But if you want to talk, whatever you want to do for a little while, only for a little while. I have a lot to do, and I got to go hang out with the beautiful wife for a little while, and the wife and the baby. So gotta go do that. But I will hang out for a bit. All right, we made really good time today. Actually, I know it's a lot of information. We're trying to get through the basics of managing a Linux system in a week. But let's see. Let's do another command. I'm giving you some extra commands here. These are not the commands I need you to memorize. All the commands I need you to memorize. You don't even need to memorize these user commands and stuff. Really, getting around the command line is the ones I want you to focus on this evening. So the CD commands and understanding the file paths is really the focus of what you need to do. LS as well, so you can see what's there. But you can figure out who you are, what user you are, by typing in the who am I command. All right. If you want to know who you are, who am I? All right. That'll tell you who you are. When we're talking about users, that's who you can see who you are. If I want to add a user to the system, I can do user. Actually, did I say add a user or user add? They are different, and they're probably both available on the system. But I can add a user, and let's call this user pipelines. All right. And what does it tell us right here? It says only root may add a user or group to the system. What in the world did we say root was? Root is in fact the system super user, okay? It's the administrator of the computer. And you might say, oh, well, how in the world, if we are dealing with things from the command line, how in the world can we become the root user? You don't need to know that right now, but what you do need to know, or a concept that's good to know, which we will cover with a slide next time, but I'll introduce you to it now, is a paradigm called sudo. And you'll see this a lot if you go through tutorials, all kinds of things. You will see sudo in there. And what this means, I think it stands for super user do. I think some people will say sudo. Don't really know for sure, to be honest with you, but it allows you to escalate the privileges of the command that you're running to the root user's privileges. We haven't learned about permissions yet. Don't sweat it on like, whoa, can anyone do this? No, not everyone can do this. There are things set up where you can control who's allowed to escalate their command privileges. But if I do that again, so if I do sudo add user pipelines, and I type in my user's password, it will go ahead and it will start to set up this user. What this command also does is it allows me to set up a password for this user, a new password for this user. Obviously, I'm going to type in password 1, clearly, because that's the most secure password on the entire planet. And there we go. And it's going to take me through this user setup process. It's going to say enter the new value, change the user information for pipelines, enter the new information. I'm not going to enter in any information, but you can type all of these things in, okay? If you would like. And this is the add user command. Now, I think I can do sudo user add and it won't do any of this stuff. Let's see if I do a user add, and I can take a look at these in a second because we haven't looked at any man pages. And let's say pipelines 2. And now you see, I typed in sudo add user pipelines 2 and nothing happened. So I want you to, if you're gonna do it for now, use the add user command. Actually, right now, you just take it as it is. You add user, if you want to add a new user, you can go through that process. There are situations when one might work better than the other. Obviously, if you're doing any type of automation, this add user command will probably be a little bit more annoying, but you might need to set some things up. But remember, we talked about those manual pages. Let's look at the add user command. This is a man page. This is what a manual page looks like, and it is kind of annoying. It's overwhelming when you first see it. It takes a little while to understand what's happening. It tells you what it is. Add a user, add group, add a user or group to the system. Then it gives you a little synopsis with some cool options. It tells you what the command is. And then it actually gives you a bunch of flags and stuff that you can pass in. You don't know what they do, but it gives you some options up here. It gives you a description as you go down. And then it explains to you what all of those flags and what all those options, it actually tells you what those things do. It tells you what all of these things do. And so if you're ever confused, you can look through this to figure it out. And it will give you the information that you need. All right. But they're hard to go through. And so if I type in user add, we get some different options. We can see what our different options down here are if we want to change the way that the command works. This also, you have to interact with this through keys. So right now I'm using the arrows, or you can use like Vim stuff as well. So you can't use your mouse to go through this, but it gives you a bunch of options. Again, it takes time to understand how to properly parse and read this. You can search through it. I can do all kinds of stuff in here. If I want to look for the word range, I can find all the iterations of the word range. And, if I'm looking for something specific, I can figure that thing out. So the man page is how you would do that. Again, we talked about that TLDR application, which is simpler man pages, and it is really good. So I will share that to you, share that with you. So we created a user. How do we know that we created a user? Remember, we can look at the etc password file, the etc passwd file. Cat is simply another command to concatenate, to spit out information from a text file into what's called standard out to the terminal. If I want to see data in the terminal, if I want to open up, if I basically want to see the contents of a file, I can spit it out using the cat command. And if I cat etc password, it throws out a bunch of information. Don't worry about what all that information is. Just notice I have a mastermind user here, which is my user. Then I have a pipelines user and a pipelines 2 user. I also have a VirtualBox user because when I install VirtualBox, it set it up here for me, but that is what it is. Going through Linux Academy, since it looks like Udemy courses are using it anyway. So even though I have a personal issue with Linux Academy, personal issue. Great site. Linux Academy got me my first legitimate DevOps role. I went on Linux Academy and learned Puppet, and I was able to get a DevOps role purely from learning Puppet. I had a strong systems background though. But Linux Academy, when we're done with this, I'm gonna tell you guys why I dislike Linux Academy. If there's anyone from Linux Academy or affiliated with Linux Academy watching, I just want you to know that I'm hurt. Okay, and I'll share my story with you very shortly about that. But Linux Academy is dope. But now they've been purchased by A Cloud Guru. I love A Cloud Guru. I love A Cloud Guru. They are amazing. I highly encourage anyone. If you've got a little bit extra money, it is worth your while if you're trying to learn this stuff. Very, very beneficial. Add user interactive, user add is not. So if you're trying to do any type of automation, you probably want the one that's not interactive, but you might need to pass in some cool stuff. Yes, a MDN and CLI equals man pages. You are correct. Mozilla was a developer network or whatever. Let's see. All right, so this is how you can see some of the users. There's some cool ways to make this output simpler, and there's other ways to see users as well. This is kind of the the way if you want to look and see. Now, remember, these are system users. So if I was to try to, so from the command line, I can switch to a new user, but I want to be very clear here that these are actual users of the system. Then I'm not, everything I'm doing here is like it's a computer as if you know it. So if I log out, when I'm on the login page, I should be able to see 2 new users. I should be able to see both. Well, if it may be broken, who knows? I don't know what just happened here. I might have to shut it down. Sometimes virtual machines aren't always what you want them to be, because obviously it's not having a good time, but no problem. I'll start it right back up. No harm, no foul. But I should be able to see those users, and I could probably log in with at least one. I might not be able to log in with the other, to be honest. Well, let's see what we get. One of them has a password, one of them does not. The other one actually has no other settings, so I'm not sure if it'll allow us to do that. But setting up users is absolutely something you might do when you're messing with systems. Maybe you're working at a company and you're in charge of the systems, and maybe all the developers are they need accounts on the systems to push things or whatever, and maybe you have to manage them through that process. Maybe that could be something you have to do. But now check this out. I have a pipelines user here. The reason why you see pipelines and not pipelines 2 is because that user add command, I didn't give it any options, and it didn't set up some of the necessary things to allow pipelines 2 to be log in this way. But remember, password 1, but it is still a system user. It is just not a system user that can utilize the GUI like this. But there we go. I'm logged in as a new account that I just created. If I head into the terminal and I make it larger, see, it's taking me through a brand new setup right now, even though I don't want to go through a setup right now. If I make it a little bit larger and I type in, keep changes, whoa. And I type in, who am I? I am now pipelines. I can also change to a new user like this. If I want to change to a new user from the command line, I can change to mastermind like this. And now if I type in, who am I am now mastermind. So yes, I'm still logged in from the desktop from here, but now I'm the mastermind user. I'm the mastermind user now. And remember how we created some files in documents, and I have test 1 and test 2 and stuff there. If I look at my documents here, these files will not be here because I am actually logged into it. So you can change users. The SU command is how you do this. The SU command alone is also how you become the root user. Don't worry about that right now. Try not to do what you want to do as root. Is how this is how you a hack. So this is not a hack, but kind of a hack. An interesting thing with Linux is if you want to become the root user and you have access to do sudo, you probably have access to become the root user. And the way that you can do this is a little hack, is the way that you become root is this. If you type in SU, it's gonna ask you for a password. It's trying to become the super user right now, but my super user is not currently set up with a password. So whatever I type in won't work, all right? It won't work. I can type in password 1 and it won't do anything. It's gonna fail. All right, that's why it's gonna hang for a bit. Authentication fails. But remember that sudo command allows you to escalate your privileges as if you were the root user. And if I do sudo su, it's gonna ask me to enter my password for my user this time, instead of the root password. And now I am now the root user. If I type in who am I am now the super user. Be careful with this. Do not, while you're learning Linux, stay away from becoming root, okay? Stay away from becoming the super user. You can make significant errors becoming the super user. You can destroy entire systems becoming the root user. Don't be afraid. If you're in a virtual machine and you know how to reset it up and stuff, play around, do what you want to do, become pretty strong, but it can get a little dangerous. Is there an advantage to becoming the super user? The advantage deflare is simply that you can do anything. You can do anything. You can do anything you want to do. So it's dangerous. Remembering to do sudo is a better option. It's safer. Yeah, I mean, it's a safer option to use sudo every time. But you don't need to sudo everything. That's the thing. Like every command doesn't require sudo, and so just using it when you want to works. You look for the danger. I look for the danger too. I lived as root. Like when I used to log into my computer, I would just sudo to root no matter what. Just sudo straight to root, and I would mess with things. But yeah, White Wolf, yeah, no one type in rm-rf/. You can, so I will say this, stuff like that, so the people who are gonna give you commands that might hurt your computer on the internet. Don't do it to something that matters, but I actually do encourage you to set up a virtual machine and try it out and see what happens. It may not, so a lot of operating systems have protections to stop things from happening, but it is problematic. Some people get super mad about it. I'm not one of those people who's gonna be like, just stop telling people to sudo rm-rf. Yes. Here's the thing. Yes, you all should be careful. Don't. You should not copy and paste commands that people give you online willy-nilly without knowing what they are doing. It's hard to do when you're first learning, but you should take a look at what's kind of happening and figuring out what's going on. Have a vague idea of what's happening when you're doing these things. But also, if you do rm-rf and / you'll immediately, it's like putting your hand on a hot stove and you'll never do it again. All right, you'll learn something very fast. But you know, I think it's safe to say that at this point you probably don't have Linux as the only operating system on your computer. And like I said, there are some checks and balances now that should keep you from doing this. Explain the difference between rm-rg folder name and rm-rf rf folder name. I actually don't know what the G is, but the way that we can find out what that is we can man the rm command. Okay, so this is how you can find out what those things do. So R stands for recursive. So inside of each folder on down the tree, it'll delete everything. RF, F is for force. I don't know what a G is. I've never used a -G in an RM command. I also don't see a G as an option. So I don't know what RG is. I don't even see that as something that you could do. If you meant rm-rf folder name, let me see where that question was again. Oh, / folder name and without folder name. Gotcha. So / folder name, remember that's an absolute file path. That means you are deleting, if you do / folder name, that means you are deleting something that is at /. It is an absolute path. So it's one of these folders that you're deleting. Without it is a relative path. So it's just the path to the thing that you want to delete. That's the only difference there, is with the /. Let's see. What's up, Alt F4? How you doing, man? Oh, the G stands for good luck. That's exactly what it is. Everyone, like every time I see people I love in here, you know, just if you want to go learn some cool stuff, check out the Alt F4. I was lurking for a long time yesterday, trying to do some work, checking out some Rust stuff. Pretty dope. Still learning a lot. But yeah, so that's, you know, these are very introductory things to Linux. I'm saying that they're introductory is not to say that they are super easy to remember. I'm not joking with you. My first job sat me down with 3 other people for 6 straight months and taught us Linux. One of the best things that could ever happen to me, honestly, in the tech industry. And when I tell you, for some reason, it took us all 6 months to get decent at Linux. I don't know why it took us so long. Like every day, 8 hours. Well, it's because we were also learning like how to do the work at the company. They were doing both in tandem. Like we're teaching you Linux, but we're also teaching you how our company works and stuff like that. But a lot of this stuff, there's a lot of muscle memory here. There's a lot of memory, so memorization of different commands. It is, as opposed to something like programming where I'm saying, hey, focus on the concepts. Here, yes, we are still focusing on the concepts, understanding what a user is, understanding that a group is a group of users that you can, you know, lump together so that you can manage their permissions and what they can do all at once is yes, that's a concept. But for you to run these commands, you gotta memorize these things. Like over time, you gotta memorize these commands, but you'll pick them up over time. It's not a race to do so. You just gotta pick up a command here, a command here. You know, spend some time learning a command a day, at least to be not memorizing one per se, like that you are pro at it, but getting familiar with a new command a day. A year, you got 352 commands under your belt. That is more than enough. I don't know 352 commands. I'll tell you that right now. And I do not know 352 commands. I don't think. I know 352 variations of commands, but yeah. Are you going to join us? Oh yeah, for your role playing. Yeah, 100%, 100%. I absolutely will absolutely join you. Oh, what company was that? They've been purchased. No. Don't. So I know it sounds great that it says they sat down and taught me Linux. They also paid me $30,000 a year in the United States, in Northern Virginia, which is, so I'm driving by people who are driving. I'm not joking. Who are driving Maseratis. There are people parking in the parking lot with Maseratis, and you know, I got my. Well, first I had a Mustang at the time. I didn't have any bills. I was rich to me. But then I got my Ford Focus, and you know, your boy was, I was spending all my money on gas and Five Guys, to be honest. That's why I put on a lot of weight. But so yeah, I mean, they did teach me Linux for 6 months, but they also did not, I was actually working during this time, like responding to issues, and you know, for what we were doing, like hindsight, I guess we had to take a substantial pay cut for them to teach us, because we were doing some big boy stuff there. I literally got a job paying almost double. My next job was almost paying double for the exact same work, except we had a couple Windows servers tossed in, like for the exact same work. So pretty interesting. I wasn't like a higher level. I was still a tier one. I was still a tier one, you know, engineer at the company, but it was, you know, getting paid almost double. It's pretty crazy. Yes, we are going to cover things like grepping. Like I said, Wednesday is going to be a lot bigger than today. We're also going to do, I'm also going to, some of the stuff that you're going to learn is going to be through the resources that I give you, just because you don't have enough time to cover all of the basics. I want to cover things like users and groups, and managing users and groups, and basic command line navigation, which is pretty important. What we also need to learn is how to get information about the computer. So next time we'll learn how to read what you see here to see, you know, how much CPU is being used and memory and things like that, about processes, the processes that are running, you know, and how you can see, you know, how much memory is being used on the computer right now, or maybe we'll give it an H to find out that, hey, I'm using 1.5 gigs and all stuff like this. We'll be learning about all that stuff, process management. We'll learn a little bit about networking as well next time. But yeah, we'll learn about grepping and some of the other command line tools. Next time is going to be a lot easier, because it's going to be a lot easier to run through more content. Today we had to go through a lot of slides to learn the different pieces of Linux and to talk about the file system and stuff. Now that we're there, we're at the point where we're just learning commands now. So next time we're just going to be basically diving straight into commands for 2.5 hours and learning the management of a system, so it will work a little bit better. Proc, insist, all that is next time. We looked at the directory structure. There's a slide in there that kind of tells you what some of that stuff is, but we will dive into that on Wednesday for sure. No, we're basically done for today. We're not diving into networking today. Like I said, next time it's gonna be a lot of information, but it's all commands, so we will spend all of our time in this terminal. I'll be honest with you all, this terminal, this like raw default terminal, is grossing me out. It is disgusting to me. So I might spruce it up. I'm not using this tool anymore. I might have to set up this whole Linux desktop differently, because it is bothering me. I don't like plain, we're not plain Janes out here, okay? Ignited Fire, thank you so much for the follow. Batch File Gaming, thank you so much for the follow. Not Jerry, thank you as well. Rohypnol, thank you for the follow as well. IPZ Raf, ZZ Kai, Codyco, welcome. VG Stuffed, everybody, I appreciate it. What terminal do you use? On Linux, on Windows, I use Windows Terminal. It's a pretty new tool by them. I'll show it to you in a second. But on Linux, I use Hyper. Hyper is my tool of choice on here. Excited to have those socks. Oh, Dorothy, yes. Everyone who, I'm glad you brought that up. I meant to say something about this at the very beginning. Everyone who has contributed $15 or more, whether or not you hit the socks tier or the stickers tier, there was supposed to be a type form that went out to you on Friday, but your boy doesn't know how to use MailChimp properly. So it will be going out either tonight or in the morning, probably in the morning, so people don't miss it in their emails. But that's just all it's asking for is your name and your address, and because I already have your email, so it's going to go to the email that you used through your PayPal, and it will ask you your name and your address. I think there's one more question in there, and it'll ask you that, and you should receive your stuff very, very soon. It'll go out for sure this week, and you will get all your cool stuff. So thanks for saying something about that. Your boy just is trash at MailChimp. I don't know how to use MailChimp, but now I know. It's helpful. I just started using it, and you know, it's helpful. It is helpful trying to get some stuff in there. I know MailChimp, I'm sorry for the trouble. Yeah, your boy's new. I know some tech stuff. I'm good at some tech stuff. I'm terrible at other tech stuff for sure. But you'll get a type form for sure. And I got you. Perfect. I appreciate that. Definitely share. That's pretty dope. I'm throwing socks. I'm not throwing socks. Maybe I'll throw socks. You know, when they should be coming in pretty soon. They should be coming in this week. I will throw some socks when I get them, so I can show you what they're looking like, and you'll get your stickers as well. But yeah, I was in the middle of showing you what terminal I used. The terminal I use is Hyper. Now, let's be very clear about this terminal. It's not the best terminal out there. It's the most fun terminal out there. Those are two different things. Those are absolutely two different things. They are, it's fun. It's good when it works. It does not work well. I've had a lot of trouble with it in virtualized environments. It is an Electron application. This is JavaScript. And so performance is kind of hit or miss. There are good Electron apps out there. This was a hit or miss one. I found that it works. It's worked pretty well for me on host systems. Virtualized, I've had a lot of problems with it. Okay. Yeah, virtualized, I've had a lot of problems with it. But it works, and you can do a lot of cool stuff. You can, every time I push to GitHub, it shoots off a rocket. Every time I pull code from GitHub, it lands a rocket. That's really cool. That's fun for me. I can make all my colors and stuff. Really dope. Terminator to me is the best terminal on Linux, personally. Stick with Terminator. I think it's the best terminal for sure, especially performance-wise. I think it's pretty dope. On Windows, if you are not, Windows Terminal is, man, Windows has come so far. This is Windows Terminal right here. And I'm not using this. This is a fresh install of Windows as well. There's no customizations here. You can make this look amazing. Transparency effects, all the colors, whatever you want to do, you can make it look amazing. Also, it has, built in, it's got support for, Azure Cloud Shell, Windows PowerShell, and your command prompt right here. Really nice. Check it out. I highly recommend it. It is a phenomenal product from the Microsoft team. I'm telling you, Microsoft, I'm new to the Microsoft game, back to the Microsoft world. Phenomenal. If you're on Mac, iTerm 2 is the way to go. I have found that Hyper works well on Macs though as well. iTerm 2 is all around a better terminal. I'm telling y'all though, if you want to have fun, if you just want to have a good time, Hyper is something you might want to take a look at. But I'm gonna get my Windows terminal looking good too, because so if you hit exclamation point terminal settings. All right, there you go. This is a repo of my dot files. You can take a look at my Hyper config. You can take a look at my settings.json is the one for the Windows terminal. And you can see how my settings usually exist. I don't have them set up right now though. Microsoft with shitty Windows 10 spies. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I get all that for sure. I get all that for sure. But again, when we talk about content creation, for me, the things that I need nowadays, I need to do some development. I need to do some content creation. I need to do some basic tasks. And I need to do some gaming. That's the only reason I'm back in Windows. Content creation and gaming is what brought me back to Windows from Linux, to be 100% honest with you. I can't be sitting over here with a 3090 and in Linux not being able to play these AAA titles. Yeah, I could use it for the things that you're supposed to use it for, like machine learning, and all that stuff. But I don't know that yet. I'm not there yet, okay? So I do what I gotta do. But you can disable Cortana. See you tomorrow, AI Luna. Yeah, I'm out of here as well. Thank you, everyone. So tangible takeaways. We always got to finish up with some tangible takeaways. what did we learn tonight? Tonight we learned a little bit about Linux, what it is. We learned about it just being a kernel. All the information about that is in the slide. We learned about distributions, the different styles of distributions. We learned that distributions are simply packaged up a collection of software to give you a certain experience, and there are many different ones. You know, got the Debian based ones, the Red Hat based ones, Arch Linux based ones, a bunch more that you can explore if you would like to explore. We learned that a lot of people run Linux via virtualization. We learned about two different types of hypervisors. Type 1, which is bare metal, which is where the hypervisor is a piece of software that is essentially the operating system in this case that allows you to virtualize more operating systems, and you install it directly on the system, as opposed to type 2 virtualization, which is host or software-based virtualization. That's how we do it normally on our own computers. If we're on Windows, if we're on Mac, we can use something like VirtualBox, which is a free and open source software. You can download it on any of those hosts, and we can use that to virtualize different desktop environments or server environments, operating systems, period. We can create as many virtualized environments as our computer, our host machine, has space for. We also learned about file pathing in Linux and the file structure. So we learned that everything is a file or directory for the most part. We also learned that the directory structure is a tree, and that you can get around to any space on the tree by knowing the path starting from the root. We learned that the root of all Linux systems is a slash, and you can go from slash to get, you can start it from slash. If you start from slash, that is an absolute file path, and you can find the absolute complete path to any node on the tree that you're trying to get to, any location on the system that you're trying to get to. You can also get to those same things by using a relative file path, which instead of using the root of the system, you use the location that you're currently at. And so the file path will be relative to where you are now. Those are called relative file paths. The other file paths were absolute file paths. We also learned a little bit about command line navigation, where we get around, how we get around the command line, how we move to other nodes on that tree, how we change directories using the CD command. We learned that if we want to see where we are first, we want to orient ourselves, we can use the pwd command, which is print working directory, to let us know exactly where we are. It will print the absolute file path to where we currently are. If we want to see what's available to us at our current location, if we want to see the things that are, if we want to list the things that are in our current directory, we can use the ls command to do that. We also learned that these commands that we pass in, things like cd and things like ls, also take other things that can modify the command and change what they do, called flags or arguments that can, we saw that with the ls command by passing in a -l, which changed the output and the way the output looked when we did that. We also talked a little bit about user management and group management. We saw that you can add users with the user add command or the add user command. We didn't do anything with groups. I can hop in and do something with groups real quick because I completely forgot about that. But we can add a user to a group, but it's very similar. It's a very similar thing. The groups are important because it means you can manage a group of users very easily without having to manage their permissions all at once. You haven't learned about permissions yet. We will learn about Linux permissions first. That's the first thing that we will learn about tomorrow. On Wednesday. I'm getting my days mixed up. On Wednesday, we will learn about Linux permissions first. Great concept. Gonna make you feel dumb and really smart at the same time, to be 100% honest, but it's a fun concept to learn. They're simple yet powerful. I think it's a really cool way to do it. We also learned about tab completion and a little bit about how that works. Not something I want you to focus on. But yeah, I think that's just about everything that we did. So what are we doing on day 4? Great question. Let's take a look at the rest of the stuff. We're gonna be, like I said, we're gonna be learning Linux permissions, process management. So we're gonna spend, I think I have it broken up because it's a lot of concepts. I think we're supposed to be spending 15 minutes on Linux permissions. I think we're spending 15 minutes on Linux permissions, 15 minutes on basic process management. I think we're spending 15 minutes on basic process management. Let's look at the thing. Let's just look at it. I have a list that I can show you in a second. So pipelines, let's look at what's on there. So process management. Getting information about the computer, about computing resources. 15 minutes on that. 15 minutes on, it's a half an hour on networking. Because there are a number of different networking concepts there. I don't know, permissions isn't on here. I don't know why it's not on here. Permissions, package management. This is up too far, but package management, installing packages, understanding how to install applications. We'll also be learning how to install packages from source as well. understanding how to build packages and compile packages from source as well. And we'll be learning text manipulation as well. So something we didn't do tonight, but we'll learn about, so we'll learn a little bit about text period. So that's where we'll be diving into grep. We'll be diving into like chaining commands together with piping and stuff. So it'll be a lot of information on Wednesday, but we'll be spending essentially the entire time. I'm not gonna actually do any slides, but I said I'm gonna provide a cheat sheet, an ordered cheat sheet through Notion that we're gonna run through. And we're gonna just basically just be learning these different topics and commands through that instead. Is that virtual or do you have a PC with ID ports? This is virtualized. I'm running a Surface Pro, and this is a virtualized Linux instance on it. For an HDD ID is still plenty fast enough, even at 1 TB drives. Yeah. Send the link, please. The link for what? Sin City. Oh, for the syllabus. Yeah, absolutely. There you go. That's the syllabus for that. Oh yeah, Linux Academy. Yes, Linux Academy story. What time do you usually start? I always start at 7. Well, not always. Let me take that back. Monday through Thursday, it's 7 p.m. Eastern time. Friday, it's 6 p.m. Eastern time. And on Saturday, it's 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. If you hit ! calendar, you can get the Google Calendar that has all the stuff. So Mondays and Wednesdays are this class, are pipelines. Tuesdays and Thursdays are decoded, which is software engineering, intro to software engineering and computer science. Fridays is an intro to cloud computing with AWS, and Saturdays is every other Saturday is just office hours. We had office hours this past week. You can just come ask questions. We can talk about whatever. The other Saturdays will be something called Build. There'll be a series called Build. We probably won't do this. Probably the only Saturday that we might not do a build series. So build series probably won't start until 2 Saturdays from now. But then it will continue every other Saturday, and the other Saturdays will be office hours. Yes, I use WSL. I love WSL. It is amazing. WSL has made Windows, to me, Windows is the perfect. It's the best operating system option right now because, again, I can do really good development. Development experience is great. I can game on it, and I can do content creation. That was my problem. Mac, gaming's a problem. You can do content creation. You can code really well. Great. So that's 2 out of the 3. On Linux, you can code really good, and gaming's okay, and content creation is trash. So Linux is kind of out for me. But Windows, you can do all 3 with a pretty good experience. That is why I am doing that right now. Let's see. Yes, you can use Docker and WSL too. I don't have it installed here, but you can use Docker and WSL too. But it's not, you can't use the Linux Docker. You have to install Docker for Windows, but it has perfect integration. There's a button in there, you integrate it, and it runs perfectly. It's the way to go. It works really well. There are a few issues with running databases there. I've had some issues using Mongo, but that's about it. Everything else is pretty good. Let's see. And you don't have to rebuild every couple of years. Yeah, you do that too. All right, cool. I missed Thursday's stream. Haven't seen the VOD yet, but it's Linux. Did you cover? Oh, so I did not cover the same things. I covered more today than I covered on Thursday. So you don't need to go watch that VOD on Thursday at all. Yeah, I mean, it's on. It is on YouTube. Hit ! YouTube. Anyone who's following who might want to see some of the older stuff. They go up on YouTube 24 hours later, sometimes 48 if some extra things are going on in my life. What was that? AI Sweegart. Thank you so much for the raid. You're definitely catching us at the very end, but we'll stick around for a little bit. One, let me give you a shout out because I appreciate that. I'd love to know what you did today on the stream. I'd love to, welcome. It's good to have you. Let me see. Is it AL or AI? I can't. It looks like an eye to me. I can't really see because my glasses are dirty and they're old. But thank you so much for the follow. Everyone who just came in from Sweetheart's channel, it's good to have you. We have just been learning a little bit about Linux. This is basically Linux Week on something called Pipelines, which is an introduction to software delivery, automation, and infrastructure, which is a DevOps and SRE introductory course. There are 3 parts to this. So this is an 8-week course, completely free for anyone who wants to join in. All the stuff is on YouTube if you want to catch up on YouTube. We're also doing one called Decoded, which is a journey into software engineering, computer science. That's on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Also one on Friday called Horizons, a journey into cloud computing with AWS. And we're doing that on every Friday. So if you want to learn some stuff, if you go to academy.mastermind.io, I'll share it right here, and click on journeys, you can get a schedule to these things and you can see what we're doing in each of them if you want to check it out. But like I said, completely free. Check it out. Welcome. It's good to have you all. Thank you so much for the follows and everything. We are finishing up right now. Unfortunately, we're just recapping what we were doing. And yeah, so on Thursday, we'll be back with this course. We'll be learning some more Linux stuff. So we'll learn about IO management and memory and storage and process management and file systems and installing stuff from source and to package managers. So it is a bunch of cool stuff there. And so again, this is a 1 week Linux deep dive. This is basically we have a 6-part Linux only series. This, you have 2 parts here. And so we'll learn enough to kind of get by as we move a little bit forward. But yeah, so tomorrow, if you're coming through to Decoded, what are we doing? I have no idea what we're doing tomorrow in Decoded, to be honest with you. I probably shouldn't tell you that, but I am familiar with it at the beginning of the week, but then I forget each day. Yeah. So this week on Decoded, we're diving into text and output and understanding how to manipulate text and all that other stuff, because we're just starting our coding journey in that class. So if you're interested in that, come check that out tomorrow. And on Friday, we are doing, I think we're doing all EC2 on Friday. I think we're diving straight into EC2 and diving pretty deep. Well, I clicked on the wrong thing. Let's see, for Horizons, we are going, all about EC2 if you want to do this. So we'll also be diving into a little bit of Linux there, but truly, when I say a little bit of Linux, a tiny bit of Linux on Friday as well, like the littlest bits of Linux. But that's it. Thank you everyone for the follows. Quinn Kai, thank you. Cold Blue Mist, thank you. Silence, welcome as well. Thank you so much again for the raid. Sorry, I'm getting on out of here, but again, I gotta go hang out with my beautiful wife. I've gotta, we have a little one on the way, and I gotta, the baby has to hear my voice until the time comes. We are doing March. It's gonna be a good time. Gotta go spend some time with the family. Gotta get some food as well, because your boy has been up here talking for 3 hours and I'm starved now. Oh, story time. Yeah, real quick. Story time. Linux Academy. Anyone out there from Linux Academy, hear my voice. Linux Academy released a job. They released a job posting before I started doing this. Oh, actually, I had run one boot camp. I had literally run one boot camp in October of 2019. Yeah, October 2019, which was a 12-week intro to DevOps boot camp. It was my first try. It was my first try at it. Great. Weeks after that, they release a job posting for a DevOps course architect, right? And I was like, heck yeah. The world is this is the universe saying you should have this thing, because I usually am never looking at jobs. I'm never really looking. I love the place that I was at, but I started to explore a little bit. DevOps course architect. I said, this is what I like. This is what I would love to do. I would love to help create this. Linux Academy is dope. I go for the interview. I get the interview. Pretty dope. I was pretty excited about it. I went in. I felt like I killed this interview. I really felt like I killed this interview. I felt like, I don't know. I felt like I killed this. I felt like I destroyed it. Maybe I obviously I didn't, but I felt like I crushed this interview. It was a really good discussion. I thought I really showed my passion. I thought I showed how much I knew about DevOps. DevOps is something I'm super passionate about. I also felt like I knew much more than the person who was interviewing me, who was like the president of like the DevOps section or like automation or something like that. I feel like I knew a lot more than him as well in the conversation that we had. And so it felt good. I'm not gonna lie, it felt good. And then I got a rejection letter so fast. I mean, like 2 hours, like maybe like 2 or 3 hours. Man, it hurt. So it was like you always gotta wait for rejection letters. And I was completely fine. Like I was fine in that. I was okay not getting the job. Completely okay with not getting the job. I had a great job. Wasn't really a thing. It was just something I was exploring, something I wanted to learn more about. but I got it in like 2 hours. And I was like, whoa, like that was fast. That was real fast. And all I did was, I was like, hey, no big deal. It hurt, it stung a little bit because I felt like it went super well. And all I did was I asked for feedback. I was like, hey, just wondering, you know, what, like, this is something that I'm interested in, because the email was basically like, you could apply again in the future. You could definitely apply again in the future, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hey, well, you know, I just want to know some things I can work on, or like, do you have any feedback for me? So I know, when I do decide to apply again, or a role opens back up, what I can do. And I got a really vague, like basically like, just, you know, they really liked you, but they just thought you weren't a fit or whatever. And I understand that feedback is hard. I genuinely do. I've interviewed a lot of people. I understand that giving feedback is difficult, but I think for a rejection that's that fast, I think that is it left a bad taste in my mouth. It definitely left a bad taste in my mouth. And I was familiar with the person that they hired for the role, and this person had never created curriculum or taught. I'm okay with that. That doesn't bother me. It's just I received no feedback about it, and it hurt my heart a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. And so I had a little vendetta against them for like a week. Linux Academy, I'm fine. It's completely okay. I was just hurt because I do like feedback. But yeah, someone said a conflict of interest. Maybe it could have been it could have absolutely been a conflict of interest. For sure. Definitely could have been that, you know. But yeah, I mean, 100%. I don't regret that at all. Like, it set me on a different path. You know, a whole new slew of things happened during that year after I did that interview, to be honest. That set me on a completely different path that I am ecstatic that I'm on. But yeah, it was really interesting. I again understand my problem. So I think my problem was that the feedback that I was given was straight from the recruiter, and it seemed like there was zero time. Like, she even responded with that information super quickly. Like it was almost like she didn't even ask the person, or they were just like, I hate that guy, he was stupid, and she was trying to break it nice to me. So again, not a big deal. I really harbor no bad feelings. But for a little bit there, I was really angry about it. Again, not about getting the job, simply about the poor like quick feedback. Usually when feedback's that quick, like, usually you got something for me. Like, give me something. Especially when I just feel like it went really, really, really well. And so, you know, just weird. That's my only story. That's my only story. I mean, so we joked around about that. No, this is not why. Like, I was already, you know, teaching this stuff because I had fun teaching it. But, you know, maybe I need to use that passion and apply that to Mastermind and take on Linux Academy. My only problem is they've been purchased by someone I actually like, which is a cloud guru, and I'm not sure that I could use that anger against them. You know, I'm not sure I still have that vendetta. They've already capitalized off of that win. But, you know, maybe, you know, Linux Academy, now a cloud guru, I love you both. I happily push people to your platforms. I tell people to get subscriptions all the time to Linux Academy. Well, not to Linux Academy, but to A Cloud Guru specifically. You're all one and the same now. If you want to help us on this journey, if you want to be a part of our journey as well, you want to sponsor the channel, you know, we would love some discount codes over here. We would love, you know, we love you as a stream sponsor. So I'm throwing it out there. It's all love over here. Everyone, you know, there doesn't have to be one big person on the street as a learner or teacher. You know, I'm not taking your space. You're not taking my space. There's space for both of us out here. So that's my just shoot your shot 2021. All right, Linux Academy, I'd love to have you as a stream sponsor. How about that? You know, come on through, say hello, pay me back for that job that Linux Academy didn't give me, but now you're responsible because you're the owners. All right. And then LaCroix deflare, then back to LaCroix. We will make our case back to LaCroix. But that's my story. That's why I had a little bit of issues with him for like a week. But I really have to go now because I'm about to pass out from not eating. And I also need to go to bed because I wake up at 4:30 now, or at least I do my best to wake up at 4:30. But peace out, everyone. Keep an eye out on the Google Classroom. If you're not in the Google Classroom and you want to be, hit !register. and you can get in there. A lot of resources will be coming out this week. You will also be getting your first quiz and assignments this week in Google Classroom, so keep an eye out on that. But yeah, check it out. Peace out, everyone. Have a great night. Thank you so much for all the follows. What's that? Soam Beast, welcome. The Florida Dude, good to have you. Valfer, YJ, good to have you all. Everyone, have a great night. Let's see. Actually, sorry, who we're gonna raid. We gotta head over to see somebody. Is there anyone from Only Devs on? Primogen's on. Primogen's on. Obviously, we have to raid the Prime. So if you guys don't know Prime, you should. He's making beats. I don't know what that is, but if you want to see someone type really fast, then do that. Also, I typed that in wrong, which means maybe we shouldn't. Prime again. Now we're heading over. All right, y'all. Oh, that right? Oh, is that one? I haven't been over to Dow's channel in a while. Dow's pretty dope. If you all want to know anything about security, someone who's super passionate about stuff, definitely head over to Dow Right, but I'm too lazy to retype it and I got to get out of here. So appreciate it. We'll definitely hit Dow Right next time. Everyone have a good night. Peace out.